Welcome back to another episode of FrameRate Podcast, a podcast where we recommend games to each other and then play them and rate them. This is not one of those episodes, though. First, or maybe the second episode that we've done on a game that we just mutually decided we were going to talk about.
Yeah, I think
I'm Robert
so.
and Cameron.
Hey,
Yeah.
what's up? I'm Cameron. But yeah, I guess the first one was
Yeah.
God of War, and that was a game that was on both of our radars that we had to play, and now Tears of the Kingdom. The second one where we had to play it. I think looking back at some of the older episodes of this too, we were like speculating on like, oh, what's this ability going to be? What's that ability going to be? So it's cool that we finally both got our hands on it.
Yeah, I mean, I took some big swings and big misses on like, oh, it's going to be this, oh, it's going to be that.
Hey, you
and it
got to
really
swing
wasn't.
for the fences though. You got to.
It's not interesting if you just go with the easy bets.
Yeah,
you know?
I think he's going to have a sword. It's like, yeah. No,
Yeah.
obviously.
So, just also kind of out of character for what we do, I don't want to jump right into the game discussion just yet because I have a nice little appetizer
Ooh.
that I talked about, I think on the last episode. I was looking for a comment of somebody just like who absolutely hated Breath of the Wild.
Ooh.
And I found the screenshot. It was actually saved in my cloud files, funny enough.
Interesting.
It was so valuable to me that I share this with you.
Okay.
In this space specifically, that I screenshotted it, saved it to my cloud backups, and then lost it until I stumbled upon it.
Uh-huh.
So for some context, Ash and I were playing Breath of the Wild before Tears of the Kingdom came out, and there was something that I was trying to look up, and so I end up on this file on this page about like getting the blue flame to the Akala Ancient Tech Lab. And I'm reading through the comments afterwards, and someone's like, horseback works great. Get on a horse, whip out your torch, strafe horse near blue flame, and you can be on your way.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's two comments that really stand out after that. This first one comes from user Nintendo Sucks.
Oh no, not a good username. Not a good sign.
And he says, they say, horseback riding is such a joke. This is the most annoying game I've ever played in my entire life. I've been playing The Legend of Zelda for 40 years, and, all caps, this game is trash. I can't believe they made a part 2 for this POS game. Never in my life have I ever hated a game more than I hate this game. And I heard that Skyward Sword was even more terrible than this. There's absolutely no way that Tears of the Kingdom will be any better than this or Skyward. The last great Zelda game was Twilight Princess. This game sucks. Nintendo sucks. The Switch sucks. Definitely getting a refund on this POS Switch and all these 2 triple-starred words, like games.
Okay. Holy shit.
This was written in February 2023, so like 2 months before Zelda came out.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack there. Oh my gosh. So this guy's been playing Zelda for 40 years. So is he like 50?
I don't know. Is Zelda that old of a franchise? I guess it is.
Yeah, like the first one was like in the 80s, but that's crazy to think, honestly. Oh my gosh. Yeah, when you said that, I immediately started going back. I was like, okay, how many years has it been? Holy crap.
Yeah.
Wow. So
There's a lot of wrong opinions there.
well, maybe they love Tears of the Kingdom. I don't know. It did everything Breath of the Wild did, but a little bit better.
And then 20 days later, Angela responds, and Angela says, I have to agree with you that this game has to be one of the worst, if not hardest, I've ever played. I
Wow.
have played 90% of the Assassin's Creed games, and none of them were this hard.
That's fantastic.
There's more. I have had to work so hard to get where I am now in the game, and what irks me the most is how a quest is running smoothly, then it stops you dead in your tracks with no seemingly way to complete it. I have had to constantly stop and search for answers on YouTube how to do specific ways to get through a problem that I've run into, and half the time what they suggest doesn't work for me. I enjoy some of the game and absolutely hate other parts of it. It seems the only solution is to give up and give it to someone who will enjoy it along with the aggravations it constantly brings. I'm glad to know, though, that there are other gamers out there that have the same sentiments I have about the game, and it is sad because it's a cute game, but the creators went way out in left field for me.
Interesting. So like
That was so hard to read. That's such a run-on sentence.
that was all one sentence?
I mean, no, the last part was...
Oh, okay.
The last part was that was probably like 3 sentences total.
God damn. There's a lot to unpack in all of that. So I will say Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom did have some systems that like off put people in, but I thought it was all about like weapon durability. Like in terms of like exploration, I think that's like for the most part what people loved, right? Like a lot of people kind of there's been a lot of like pushback for a lot of modern games nowadays where they just have waypoints that tell you like everywhere to go, do everything. But I guess the inverse effect of that is that people are like, oh, I'm lost, I don't know where to go. Even though if you just talk to somebody, they'll like highlight everything you need to do with like that text being read, like the certain like focus items in the text box. That's really interesting. So
Yeah,
I
like
wonder if they like Tears of the Kingdom.
I really love that they compared it to Assassin's Creed.
That one in
As if,
particular was golden.
and then I really loved the that like when a quest is running smoothly, they stop you dead in your tracks. You have to Google it on YouTube, and then that doesn't work. I'm like, how does that not work? Like,
Yeah.
what?
Well, plus, if you're the type of person who like Googles everything every second you get like a little bit stuck in a video game, then you might find them to be like just not fulfilling in general. Like I thought the entire point of a lot of these games, and Zelda in particular, is the exploration and you moving around at your own pace, doing things your own way, and kind of like finding your own solutions to the problems that you discover. And oftentimes you can even create your own problems and then solve them. Like if you get lost and then figure your way around the world. It seems like I guess an open world exploration type game like that just isn't for them. Like I'm trying to think of any other good examples of a game without like a waypoint. I bet they would hate something like Elden Ring or like anything else that's like massive open worlds where you just kind of immerse yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it's such a good use of like light use of waypoints. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like go
Yeah.
here. This is going to be like kind of like a quest starter or whatever. But it was that and the parts that kind of hinted at this idea that like I don't want I don't feel rewarded for getting past a challenge, or I'm just like maybe games just aren't for you. Maybe you need a game that has an easy mode,
Yeah. Or, a
you
game with
know?
more direction. Sometimes like there's waypoints that are like, go do this, go do that, go do that. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. But a lot of people kind of hate those. Most people, I think, kind of hate being like told, here's exactly what to do. You know what I mean? Like, imagine playing like a first person shooter game and then like just holding right trigger and then the game doing all the aiming. It's like that, but in terms of like an exploration game.
Yeah. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So I just wanted to share that because I was looking for that last time, and I feel like it's so funny that we can have that as the kind of opener for us to get into Tears of the Kingdom.
Where we can talk about how much we enjoyed a lot of the things that other people, I guess that some of these people at least, I would say they're the vast minority though. Most people really loved Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but the games aren't without their faults. I think one thing that I
Yep.
actually wanted to ask you, you said that you were playing through Breath of the Wild before Tears of the Kingdom. Um, how did that like impact your experience at all? Because I went in without having touched Breath of the Wild in years.
I think it it I don't know. Honestly, I like we played it together because
Hmm.
Ashlyn hadn't beaten Breath of the Wild ever, so we were playing through her file. So we kind of finished up the last half. And it was really fun to see the world and be like, "Oh, I know where things are here, right?" But
Hmm.
then getting into the Tears of the Kingdom map, suddenly, boom, the map's the same, but it's not. Like
Hmm.
you think you know where you're gonna go. Like take the Lost Woods for example, and you're like, oh, doesn't work that way anymore, you know?
Yeah,
So,
I think that sounds like a almost like a cooler way to go through the game. Since when I went into Tears of the Kingdom, I'd forgotten the entire map layout. So I
mm,
went in and I was like, "Whoa, this is a whole cool new world. Where am I going? What's this? Like, where is everything
yeah.
again?" And that was kind of
It,
neat, like re-exploring things.
yeah, there was this sense of familiarity, and then suddenly you're like, wait, I don't recognize this place. So, like, the Great Plateau, for example, in Tears of the Kingdom, it's sunken in, and it's basically just level with the ground that was previously towering over.
Uh huh.
And so, like walking up to the Great Plateau, I almost felt like it was unrecognizable because I was so used to it being up in the sky, or not
Hmm.
literally,
Yeah,
but
like elevated
towering
up
over
like that.
you. Yeah, and with the what did they call it? With the upheaval or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
That caused it to ironically sink down. And and yeah, so then it was one of those things that threw off my like the anchors for my cognitive maps
That's kind of
and
cool.
threw me off. It was cool.
That is cool. I actually, that was the one area of the map that I did recognize, and it was just by chance. Like, I was up in a sky island, and I dove down and was doing my thing, exploring, and then I saw the old like chapel, and I was like, "Whoa, no way! I
Mm.
recognize that." And then from there, I landed, and kind of was like figuring my way around, and then went back up to the cave that you started in Breath of the Wild, and
Oh
that
yeah.
was kind of a cool moment.
Yeah. Yeah, so do we want to kind of go through this game? What were your thoughts on the Great Island or the what was it? The Great Sky Island? Kind
I
of go from the beginning.
Yeah, from like yeah, my thoughts like from the start, I really did enjoy that Sky Island. I will say like before that, I felt like it like kind of like took a little bit to get there, but once I got there, like it was fun kind of almost getting back into that world but like from a new perspective, like refamiliarizing myself with Zelda, but now I'm up in the sky and I kind of enjoyed it when it was just like that small chunk. Not to say I didn't enjoy it when it was a large open world too. I did, but it was kind of fun being like, oh, I'm just in this like small little like piece of the puzzle here, and it did a really good job, I think, of introducing the mechanics that were new to the game in kind of a more like smaller controlled environment, more contained before like letting you loose. So they kind of like
Yeah.
doled out all the different pieces, and you kind of like needed to use one ability to then move on to get the next ability.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely felt like it was more guided than Breath of the Wild. That was the first note that I took, I think, playing this game was the intro seems more guided than the Great Plateau.
Yeah.
And that tutorial style almost I feel like they learned from Breath of the Wild, oh, we should do a little bit more hand holding without it being too much, obviously. And I think it would have been really funny if they had kind of flip flopped the tutorial style so
Yeah.
that, Breath of the Wild is like a bit more guiding you along the way, and then Tears of the Kingdom is like figure it out. But obviously they want the game to be playable even if you haven't played the first one, so it
Yeah.
was a really good tutorial, I
Yeah, I
thought.
think so. It would have been pretty tricky, like if we didn't get like that little playground before it all opened up, because it almost seemed like a lot of the puzzles were designed with like a beginner focus in mind. Like, oh, here's a very small bridge you need to make. Just pick up a little tree branch or a little plank and then place it over here, and you've solved it. And then it kind of gets the gears turning a little bit. I remember, you know, like when you first start, there's like those aha moments where with Ultra Hand you can combine a hook to a cart and put that on like
Mm,
a rail, and you're like, whoa, okay, there's a lot of cool stuff I can do with this.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, what was your first impression? Because, like, I'll share my first impression. I'll let you share
Hmm.
yours. When I jumped from the cave that awakens in and into the water, and I was like looking around, I was like, this feels this looks small, but it feels like it's going to be expansive.
Hmm.
And then my brain immediately jumped to, oh no, I have to do 100 plus more shrines.
Oh gosh. Yeah, especially if you just came from Breath of the Wild, I could imagine it also being kind of like, oh, not this shit again.
Yeah.
More shrines. Yeah, my first impression, like you start, you jump and you land in that pool. My first impression, funnily enough, was actually like I need to accumulate stuff. I want to go grab as many things as possible. Like I looked and saw like a bird or something, and I was like, I want to kill that. I want meat. I entered like full on hoarder mode immediately.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it was cool how what they did with the Master Sword in the beginning too, where
Hmm.
it's like weakened, and then I'm like, I was scared to use it. I was like, oh, I want to keep it, and then at some point I was kind of forced to use it because I was being attacked before I could find a stick to put to use or whatever on a construct.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
it's like your Master Sword's have energy, and I'm like, oh shit, what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah, I think I had the same experience. I was like, I'm gonna use this to hit some things, and then it like breaks pretty quickly after that, and you're like, oh no, I gotta grab a stick. But then the stick ended up doing pretty decent, maybe even more damage.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, that sword was doing nothing.
Hmm.
Um, and then I felt like it was pretty apparent that the sword was going back in time the moment you got rid of it. I feel like they had a lot of really smart color language where I was like, oh, there's like a yellow something going on around the sword, and yellow's being used for time. So
Yeah, I
I
thought that
wonder how we're
was.
gonna get it.
Yeah, I definitely thought that was pretty smart and pretty well done. And yeah, I when it was first like sent back, I was like, oh, what are they gonna do here? How's the story gonna go? And they didn't
Hmm.
disappoint in that regard either.
Oh yeah, by the way, this is full spoilers.
Oh
So if you
yeah.
made it this far and questioning it, we're gonna get hardcore into spoilers.
Yes, sir.
But speaking of the of rewind and the runes, they were definitely much more engaging and interactive with the world and tools and just like play style, like really giving you your own control over the world compared to the Sheikah Slate from the first one.
Oh, definitely. It almost felt like I almost felt like I didn't make use of them enough. Like there were so many like endless possibilities challenging you to use all of these different abilities in cool ways. I kind of like kept it pretty vanilla. So I was using like Ultra Hand a lot and Fuse a lot. I didn't use Rewind as much, but then I've seen like clips of people using Rewind and like launching things like back up hills to like roll over enemies and stuff. I'm like, oh, this is really
Hmm.
friggin' cool.
Yeah. Like early on in the game, fusing was obviously like goaded, right? You're like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
gonna stick whatever to my stick and suddenly it's gonna do something. And then
Stick
I
to my
think that
stick.
also, yeah, double stick. And and then I feel like the fusing actually fixed the fear that people had in the first game, which is this weapon is so good, I'm like scared for it to be destroyed. It sucks that weapons get destroyed.
Yeah.
Um, so having everything basically be hot garbage and then you fuse stuff onto it made it a lot more rewarding, especially like monster parts.
Oh, definitely. I think I had an aha moment when I discovered how good the monster parts were because at the very start what I was doing was just kind of fusing weapons to other weapons and then
Hmm.
I think there's a moment where you can like get like a spear or a stick, a long stick and like attach like bramble to the end of it and you're like, "Oh, okay, cool. There's like kind of decent damaging things in the environment." But what I think there was a brief moment where I had a stick and I had just killed like a bokoblin or something, and then you realize like, oh shoot, like its horn when I put it on this, it turns into like a Boko Slayer or something along those lines. And
Hmm.
then my thought was like, well shoot, I've been picking up a ton of these and they're just in my bag. I could just like grab one, throw it on the ground, and then fuse from there. So that was what I started doing like the rest of the playthrough. And then as you unlock higher and higher level enemies, that's almost like unlocking better weapons then for yourself. So I found that to actually be a pretty interesting progression system.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Especially because then you're not fearful as they level up because you're like, well, I've got the weapons to kind of fight these guys at least for now, and
Yeah.
then
I would be like,
whatever
"Oh, I've
parts I
got
get from them.
yeah, exactly." I'd be like, "Oh, I've got 20 horns in my pocket. Like I could pull those out and that's like the real like damage dealer here." I mean, there were certain
Yeah.
combos that were really good too. Like if you had like what was it? The flux construct thing and you put that on like a Zona thing, they would get like bonus damages.
I
But
didn't even
yeah, that was
abuse
good.
that.
Oh, it was good. It was
But yeah.
good.
Um, yeah, but it did get me to the point where I was like just farming those bosses that respawned just for
Hmm.
parts. So I'd be like, oh, I gotta go fight like what is it? The like the big construct guys on the Sky Islands
Yeah, yeah.
to get their cores so that I could fight a Talus with it, so I could get um the Talus hearts so that I could,
Yeah.
use that for whatever. But so it like created this chain, and there were so many little subsystems that created these chains um, of like I'm gonna do this to enable that, to enable that, to enable that, and then it would kind of come
Hmm.
full circle.
Yeah, and it was kind of fun like progressing through the game and like just taking stock every now and again of like what weapons you had on you and looking at things and being like, yeah, I remember when I killed that stone talus like 2 hours ago and I've still got that like hammer here now in my bag and I'm going to bust it out now. And I kind of would get attached to some of them because I'm like, oh, this is my moment of glory here. Like I killed a Lionel and use that like fang or horn on this, and you're like, oh shoot, I really don't want to use this now, but I guess I gotta. But then when you
Yeah.
use it, then you unlock more stuff, so it's kind of like it keeps it moving, it keeps it churning, you know.
Yeah, and I think going into a game like this where pretty much nothing is permanent, you need to just kind of understand or come to terms with the fact that like you're gonna get these elite drops for very specific high tense high value moments, like fighting what are the dragon guys? Totally blanking on their names.
Oh yeah, it was called like Eok or something. What were they called? Creox.
Gleeok.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like fighting the King Gleeok. I was like, I'm pulling everything out.
I got scared and ran away from that guy. I saw him and I was like, fuck that.
I traveled all the way across the desert to make it to that one, and then I was like, oh. And then I put down one of those like travel like warp waypoints, and then I left.
Yeah, because there was one in the underground too that had like 3 different elements, and I was like, I'm not fighting that guy. I think that was actually a potential downside to the weapon system because
Uh-huh.
I looked at it and I was like, that guy's gonna take like 10 of my badass swords to kill, and I don't want to use them right now.
I feel like, but see, like yes, but the reason that worked better for me was because I was like, oh, like you see the health bar and it says King Gleeok and you see the 3 different elementals and I'm like, I don't want to deal with this right now. But I had gotten the travel medallions already, so I was like, I'll just put this down and then I'll prepare and then I'll come back ready to spend whatever I have to spend to
Yeah.
survive this battle.
I think that's a really good point. I actually, admittedly, like never ever used the travel medallions.
Did you unlock them though?
I did.
Dude,
I unlocked them
they're
and then
so
never used
clutch.
them. Oh, I should have. Oh my gosh. See, now that's another thing. Like the game does such a good job of giving you so many different tools to use, and I almost felt guilty for not using like half of them, or maybe some of them. But yeah, the travel medallions. Funnily enough, I think I only used one, and it was at the little farm that had like the weird creatures that you could feed stuff to, and then they would poop out rupees.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, or not rupees per se. I guess they'd poop out like gems.
Yeah.
Put a medallion there.
You'd give them the
Glintstone or
Zonite?
something. Yeah, it was like I
The
think it was,
luminous stones.
yeah,
maybe?
that's it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but I feel like we haven't talked too much about the other runes.
Yes.
Ascend, like completely changed the way I think about things.
Same. I think it was my favorite ability for that reason.
Yeah, like my brain was like completely new, and seeing people like do cheesy things like I saw one where it was a shrine where you need to cross a chasm, and so somebody ultra handed a fan out into the lava, like over the lava as high as they could, and then they brought it back and they held it like just over land for a couple seconds, and then they let it go, and then they hit rewind on it, so then the fan went back right overhead of them, and then they ascended to the top of it, and then the fan went out as far as they could go, and then they jump and paraglided off the fan air wind current all the way across the chasm instead
Oh
of
my
just
gosh.
using the stupid wings like a freaking normal person.
That's like genius though. I love hearing stuff like that. I don't think I ever got that clever with my like puzzle solutions, but whenever I did use rewind, there were moments where I'm like, I don't know, is this okay? Like, am I cheating right now? Ooh.
Yeah. So I was one of the people who I'm like Ashton's like, but we can just get here by doing this. I'm like, yes, I know, but I want to know, what did the designers intend?
Yeah.
I want to know what the designer wanted me to do. And she's like, they wanted you to be creative and get across. And I'm like,
True.
no, but like, what did they want me to do?
It's funny though, because like both are true, right? Like,
Yeah.
could you imagine it cuts to the designer and he's like, I was hoping they'd use rewind here.
He He's like, this is the exact solution.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean though. There are times when like going through those shrines, I would look at the tools in front of me and think to myself like, I want to solve this shrine only using the tools in front of me, nothing exterior. Because theoretically, you could start busting out other Zona gadgets and other stuff and get wacky with it, but I kind of wanted to solve everything with what was in front of me at the time.
Absolutely.
Did you
With the
have?
shrines,
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I was just
Go
gonna
ahead.
ask. We Ascend was probably my favorite ability because it changed how I thought about things. Did you have a favorite ability?
I think it had to be fused, just the creativity of like if I wanted to get somewhere really high, I'd be like, oh, I'll just put out a bomb flower and fuse it to my shield and then jump off of that.
Oh, I didn't even
Or like
think
a
to do that.
barrel. I saw some like one person do it, and then I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I was just like, I don't know. It was like there was like some wall or something, and I was like, oh, let me just like fuse this. I think it was a red barrel. Let me fuse this red barrel to my shield, and then I just like jump, shield, fly into the air. It's like poor man's ravioli.
That's amazing. I saw something that kind of blew my mind where somebody took one of those like mine carts and fused it to their shield and then started shield riding and you could like ride it. I never thought to do that, but I saw a clip of that
It's
and I
got
was like,
insane
"What?
durability.
That's so genius."
Yeah.
I think I didn't use the shield fusions as much as I wish I did. I used weapon fusion a lot, but I feel like there was a lot of awesome options for shield too. Like I think there was one shrine where they really like required you to put a rocket on your shield and then just like ride that straight up, and I thought that was so cool too.
And I loved that about like as a lesson learned from Breath of the Wild, where in Breath of the Wild it's like, oh, a test of minor, major, strength, whatever, right? And you just have to fight it. Whereas in this one, there were so many tutorial shrines. And if you were like me, where you were too excited to explore the map that you didn't do the shrines, and you go back to do the shrines after you've beaten the game, they feel kind of
Oh
dumb.
shoot, you did that?
Oh yeah, dude. I
Oh.
knocked an easy 20 shrines after I beat the game because like I beat the game, I lent it to a friend, I got it back, and then I just like knocked out like 20 more shrines and I was like, oh, some of these are just so dumb. And some of
Yeah.
them were just Raru's blessing.
Yeah. Did you find the one that was like a fake Rauru's blessing and it like moved away from you?
Ah,
That like kind
that
of
one was
tripped me
so
out too.
cool. I forgot about that one until right now. That was awesome.
I went into it and I was like, "Oh boy, another one of these." The way
Yeah.
when I played, I would use those like spirally green like things above the shrines as like, "Oh, I got to go do that now." So that was kind of my cue to like explore the world. I would pull out my binoculars kind of and like mark those and then walk to those. And typically on the path walking to it, I would get distracted by something else or discover something else. So like those were kind of my like waypoints that I was always moving towards, but then like I would allow myself to get distracted along the way.
I operated the same way, but once I synced to the shrine and I could teleport it to it later, I just wouldn't do the shrine. I would go to
Oh,
the shrine
yeah.
actually to go heal. I'd be like, I need to
Oh.
heal. Let me go do a shrine.
That's actually a good point. I think there was a good stretch of a few hours playing the game where I was only doing shrines, and for that reason I like didn't heal at all for like a couple hours. Like I forgot how much food I had because they give you that full heal at the end. So I'm like, "Oh, I'll just go heal at the shrine."
Yeah, yeah. I think the shrines were such a step up this time around. There was like maybe one or two that were a little too physicsy, where I was like, I get the intent. I get what you want me to do. The physics just ain't physicsing.
Yeah, I think some of them were so tight and so like well designed, and then yeah, I did encounter a couple like that were kind of like pinball-y almost, ones where you had to like hit
Yeah,
things, whack things. Yeah, anything that was like heavily reliant on the physics like got a little bit annoying because you had to like get it just right. And
that's
yeah, there was one I remember where it was like you hit a switch and a thing like rotated really quickly like to whip the ball, and I had really like a tricky time with that one.
that's exactly the shrine that I was thinking about. That was too physicsy.
Yeah, that was
And
one. Exactly.
there's probably like a couple that are like that, and they probably weren't as hard as they seemed for us. But I didn't like. I like looked it up online, and I was doing exactly what somebody else was doing, and I'm like, why am I so stupid?
You're like,
It
what's
was
the
also like one
problem?
of the first shrines though that I did.
Yeah. In that case, that kind of brings up a good question. What was kind of like the very first direction you went, like in the game, like when you first landed towards like the center of Hyrule? Because, pardon me, I think the shrines that you do and the tutorials that you receive are largely dependent on that direction that you go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, so I think I maybe we did a couple of shrines that were like right in the vicinity before going into like the center in front of Hyrule.
Mm-hmm.
But then from there, because that's kind of what kickstarts the game,
Mm-hmm.
we went straight to the Wind Temple, which also like the game tells you should go there. And I figure if the designers are saying, "Hey, you should go there," I'm not going to be a contrarian for the sake of it. And then it was great because then the Gale was not the Gale, that's Rivali's.
Oh yeah,
But
the wind
whatever.
ability from what
Yeah,
Tulin. I love that ability
yeah.
so much. I can hear it. The sound of him doing it. I can hear. You know, like I use it so much. I can hear him going like woohoo.
Somebody pointed out that that sound cue is very strikingly similar to like the wolf whistles or something or I think it's one of the reeds that you blow in Twilight Princess.
Really?
And
Oh,
yeah,
I
I'll
haven't
have to
played.
find the soundbite
Yeah, I would love to
later.
listen because I actually haven't played Twilight Princess in so long. I need to revisit
I
that one.
know.
That's a good one.
I wish they just released it on the Switch, dude.
They should. I need to play Skyward Sword on the Switch too. Damn. Damn. I
Where?
was a little bit of a contrarian when I first started. I actually started going west and then southwest a little bit, and then
Ooh.
I started getting beat up a fair amount. But I went to a shrine where I actually couldn't solve it. It was reliant on wind and using the fans, but I got to that shrine before I got the paraglider. So I was in there and I'm like, what do I
Oh.
do? How do I do this? And then I was like, damn, well, I should probably come back once I get the paraglider. And then I went to like the center of Hyrule and then found the town and everything. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I started progressing the story a little bit from there. But for a brief moment at the start, I found myself wanting to do as many shrines as I could ASAP, and then I found some of them to be undoable. But that's probably because you need a little bit of tools before you get started on these. But I was a little bit bummed about that.
That's really interesting because I didn't care for the shrines. I just wanted to explore as much of the map and see as much of it as possible, which
Hmm.
is why getting Tulin's ability was such a good payoff because it just gave me more traversal power.
Yeah, there were so many areas that I think I could not have gotten to without that ability. Um, the
Mm.
way that I played it actually, funnily enough, there's a huge amount of gap between my first temple completion and my second temple completion because I did the Wind Temple first also, and then once I got that ability, it was my mission to just explore as much of the world as possible. That was like when I had the green light to just like go 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 and explore everywhere.
Yeah. Um, what'd you think of that first temple?
I thought it was really cool, really interesting. I think verticality is absolutely like a theme of the game, and seeing it explored in such a way where you're kind of like steadily climbing upwards, I found to be really like what's the word? Like kind of like it was exciting, almost like tension building, because like the stakes rise every time you get higher because you're like afraid of falling. So in that, I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
it's getting more intense. It's getting more intense. It's getting colder. It's getting windier, and I didn't like the actual ship itself as much like once I landed, but I still found it like an interesting and different enough like location that it was like fun to explore. Um this is like a little bit of an aside, but like after the first temple, I found the other temples to be less interesting because like the first one I had so much fun with. I was like I was really I dug it. It was kind of fun.
Yeah. I feel like these temples were a step up from the beasts in Breath of the Wild.
Agreed, yeah.
Um, they had this sense of like there was a sense of wonder to them because they were all unique and different.
Mhm.
Um, and much like the wind temple, the water temple was also up in the sky. Though I agree that I don't think any of them were like top tier temples in like the scheme of Zelda,
Hmm.
but they were much more fun that I thought than the beasts were.
I agree. Yeah, I definitely found the like just like the theme. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it, but almost like the area surrounding the temples and like the lore of the temple and just like the story surrounding it to be much more enticing. Like it was kind of mystical, especially the first temple, that wind one, because there was that song about it, and you're kind of like,
Hmm.
whoa, this is kind of like mystical. This is this whole like fantastic place. I'm trying to think of the right words to describe it almost, but it's like ancient. You've heard of it. It's historic, and then you go there
Like a
and you're like,
legend.
whoa, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
legend of
Of
Zelda.
yeah. It was really cool to have that. I also much preferred these boss fights to the Blight Ganons.
Oh yeah, the that first fight too was like really intense. I really liked that first boss fight. The
Colgate.
yeah, yeah, that was really cool.
Colgate.
Colgate. I didn't even doubt it. I was like, yeah, that's their name.
Yeah,
I
dude, the music on that was like a
it's
viral
slapping.
like thing on TikTok. It's so good.
Oh yeah. It seemed like
Yeah.
that would have been cool to. I think we talked about it a little bit, but like I think it would have been cool to like have been on TikTok around like the week that the game first came out and just watching people like mess around and do crazy stuff with. Like I think people were talking about like crucifying Dekus and stuff.
Yeah, Koroks. The amount of
There you go.
Korok space programs that I saw was insane.
Let's go. You gotta launch them.
Um, yeah, let's see. What else on the temples? To kind of pick on the temples, um, I feel like my high notes on each temple was I think I liked the ship the most out of all of them because uh, it was the first one. There's so much wonder and amazement to the whole thing that I really appreciated it.
Yeah.
But then we moved on to, I think, the water temple, and that one was kind of lame of a water temple
Hmm.
because it was just like a few islands, and like there was some puzzling to it, but ultimately it wasn't that hard of a temple. And then the underground Goron temple was super cool placement wise, but ultimately not not super fun because you're just like mine carting around a lot and doing a
Yeah.
bunch of switches and backtracking. And then fourth temple, desert temple was kind of uh mazy, but not in like a fun maze
Yeah.
kind of
Like
way.
kind of claustrophobic. Kind of just like going down individual hallways and like using. I kind of like the mirrors,
Yeah.
but yeah.
And then the wind sage or the whatever sage, not the wind sage, whatever Mineru's one
Oh,
was.
I hated that one, and
So dumb.
I stumbled across that one really early on in the game and got stuck.
How did you stumble upon it? I want to hear the story.
Yeah. So, remember when I said I beat the Wind Temple, and then afterwards I spent the rest like so much time exploring the rest of the world? It was my
Yeah.
goal to fill out the underground before doing another temple. So
Mm.
I actually like made it to the Goron Temple or close to the Goron Temple before even reaching that area like above ground. I was just like living underground. I was a little miner. And for that reason, actually, like my armor set for the longest time was the miner armor set because I was able to upgrade that, and that was like my highest defense. So I was running around
Okay.
looking like a dumbass miner for like a lot of my game.
Is
And
that what the miner's ability was? Was just defense, or did it have a special
it
ability?
had a special ability, but it was so stupid. What it would do is it would create little light nodes as you walked.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I was hoping for a cool set bonus. That was the very first set that I fully upgraded enough to unlock the set bonus, and it was such like a disappointment. But it was also the one that I sunk the most into, and it, yeah,
Hmm.
invested the most into, and that had my highest defense. So I was like, well, I guess I got to use this now. So I was a miner.
Yeah.
I was the miner 49er.
I did that too, actually. Not that intensely as you, but I upgraded it and I was like, this is disappointing.
Yeah, it was a bummer. Afterwards, when I eventually got a good armor set, I used that the rest of the game. But we can get into that in a little bit.
Sure.
So that actually does kind of tie into what I was talking about because I was exploring the underground so much and I was finding some interesting stuff down there. I found armor that was like reminiscent of some of the other Zelda outfits, and
Hmm.
I even like found those statue guys and like bought all the different things that I could buy there.
Oh,
So it
the
was
Poe guys.
yeah, exactly. Some of them were
Yeah,
massive, and it was kind of
yeah,
freaky.
they were really fun to find.
Yeah, that was. I had so much fun like finding them and exploring the underground, and I found the underground almost to be like kind of creepy and like it felt like so different from the above ground in that like you're playing with light a lot and discovering and kind of like pushing through the darkness. But you could like see one of the light roots in the distance and ping it, like look for like those orange like kind of globes almost.
Hmm.
I found it to be a lot of fun. At the same time, though, I did find towards like the back half of exploring the underground to be like very repetitive, and I found like a lot of the environments just like look and feel the exact same.
Yeah.
To the point where after I eventually unlocked auto build, I made like a little plane, and that was my like go-to vehicle. And I would just like build a plane, ping a light route, and then fly above everything to get to it. And then from that light route, I would look around until I saw another one, build another plane, and then just fly to that. So I would just like skip everything, like just flying over the underground.
Which is funny because it feels like you're cheating, but also that's kind of the reward for like engaging with the game and getting to understand it and then getting to a point where you have the resources to do this.
Yeah, I was grinding in the underground for a long time, and I was trekking it on foot and killing everything I saw along the way too. So I was farming up as much Zonaite as I could. So then once I got like 1,000 Zonaite, I was like, frick it, I'm making planes. Let's go.
So, um, when you were doing all of this traversal, did you key into the mirrors of the relationship between like the surface and the
I
underground?
did. That actually kind of blew my mind. I would open the map and kind of like flip between the above and below and notice like mountains were chasms, so on and so forth. And I thought that
Hmm.
that was like really interesting, and that actually kind of helped me figure out where I was sometimes, like looking at, for example, what? Why am I blanking on it now? Like the Mount Eldon Mountain? Is that where the Gorons are?
Um,
Mount
why am I
Mount
blanking on
Mount
it too?
Goron.
This is a little embarrassing for
But
this
seeing
being
like
like
the
one of my favorite.
seeing the big chasm. But
Yeah,
it was
Death Mountain.
Death Mountain. Oh my gosh, I'm a foolish.
My brain was like a Mount Doom, which is like I know is wrong.
Yeah, man, that's Lord of the
That's
Onion
Lord of the
Rings.
Flies.
Yeah, that's it. But
Um,
yeah, that was very cool seeing that.
I don't think that I made the connection until I was trying to go somewhere and it was just walls and it was just walls, walls. And then I realized walls were represented by water above ground.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, wait, Ashlyn, I think that each light route corresponds to a shrine. And then online people are like, oh yeah,
Oh, did it?
they like yeah.
What?
So the game has a built-in way for you to find every single shrine, which is populate, fill out the underground, and then go above ground, and that's where the shrine is.
Wow, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, so there's 120 light routes.
God damn. Yeah, there were so many light routes. I they all had like the craziest names too. Like it definitely felt like just like randomly generated some of them.
They're the reverse of the shrine name.
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So then in that case, yeah, the above ground and the below. Oh my gosh, yeah, it all ties together, man.
Yeah, and this isn't an original observation for me. I heard this on a podcast, but then I really loved this where like you go into the underground to find these treasures and to find these zonite, and then in order to traverse the underground though, you need to go into all these caves to get like bombs and the bright bloom seeds and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's this kind of relationship, this like cycle of where you need to go, and then you need to go to the sky to get Sundelions, so that you can restore your
Yeah,
health
fight the
when you're
bloom.
underground.
Or
Yeah,
what?
and
Gloom.
bloom,
Oh my gosh.
and the Zonite also, um, like there's this huge like multi-connected cycle of like uh, trans like exploration and collection of resources, because then the Zonite also allows you to get batteries, which then allow you to further traverse the skies even further. So it's just like there's so much thought that goes into the relationship between the sky, the surface, the depths,
It's all
and
connected.
encourage you to really explore everything. Which also, like, the unsung hero of the game is above ground caves.
Those, yeah, that was so fun. Like discovering those, stumbling on those, and like I think the very first one I found was when I was heading northwest towards like the Wind Temple zone and everything. And from there, like, oh man, there was one that I found really early on that had like the soldier's armor in it, and it was like this cave just keeps going. But at any time, you can also just leave with ascend too. So you're like, cool, I don't feel like trapped in any
Stuck.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was the soldier's armor in the cave that goes from the city in front of Hyrule into under the
I
castle?
think
Because
so.
I definitely did that trek for a while and got a little spooked.
Yeah, that was spooky, especially like when you start fighting like what is it, like black horriblins, and they've got like those horns
Yeah.
there, and like if they hit you, they're gonna do like all your health. But if you kill one and you get the horn, then you're like, cool, I just powered up tremendously.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that I was dumb about. Oh, did I just delete all my notes? No, I didn't. Cool. I don't think we upgraded our armor like at all.
It took
Like
me a
we
long time
worked
to
with
discover it.
yeah, well, because like we tried to get the fairies and then we used it to get the I got spoiled on the flight suit armor for like its passive ability if you level it up to level 3, the set bonus. Which
What?
did you do that?
Which set bonus?
The
Is that the
the
one?
wingsuit?
Oh, I did level that one up. That's the one where you like don't take fall damage anymore, right?
Yeah. So we did that. So it's like cool. I'm walking around with like a whopping like 18 defense or whatever it was,
Yeah.
if that. So going anywhere to fight, we were just getting our asses handed to us until late game. I'm like, wait a minute, let's just update. Like I think we did like soldier greaves and the hood and the champion's tunic, and suddenly we had like 60 armor or something, and it's like let's go.
Yeah, there you go. That was the key. For me, I went hard on the fierce deity armor. Like once I discovered that quest, that was like this is all I'm doing. I'm going hard on this. But it was like kind of annoying trying to find the just the right ingredients to upgrade it
Yeah,
because you need
that
to
was the
get
big
like
deterrent for me.
yeah, it was such a pain in the ass. Anytime you grabbed a like a resource from a dragon, be it like a fang or a horn or a tooth or whatever, you had to wait like 10 real world minutes or something for it to repopulate.
Yeah. And so it's like, yeah, you
Crazy.
can sit on the dragon and stuff, but
And listen to that dragon music and then ride
dragon
it into
music's
the
sick.
underground.
Yeah, yeah.
I did ride one into the underground and that was kind of fun.
We did that too, and then I jumped off to go fight Underground Colgate.
There you go. And get that Colgate fang, put that on a weapon.
Yeah,
That shit is busted.
yeah, busted.
I would get
Um,
the ice dragon like shards and put those onto things, and those would turn into like Nadra hammers, I think is what it was. And then you would, if you
whoa.
hit an enemy with it once, it would freeze them, and then I would switch to something else real quick, and then run up and then hit them, and then switch again, and then run up and freeze them again. It was pretty
You know
good.
the busted move?
Yeah,
You freeze them and then you hit them with a clubbing item.
I think that yeah, because
Yeah.
it would like shatter it.
It, yeah, so it does more damage that way. If it doesn't kill them, it does like the thought that went into weapon types, like axes could chop down trees in 2 hits, but swords did more. And then clubs, like I don't know if you can even chop down a tree with a club.
Yeah, I don't think you
Like
could.
the thought that went into all these different weapon types was just insane.
That's really cool. A lot of games have something kind of like that, but it's very much like more what's the word I'm looking for? Like obvious or like it or apparent even. But in Zelda it was just kind of like intuitive. You're like, "Oh, cool. Like I'm not going to use this big club to cut down a tree. Like naturally I need something with an edge." I love stuff like that.
Well, it's also like an example of normally you're like, oh, I'm playing a video game. Video game rules apply. Hit this thing and it'll fall over, which is true for like more old school games.
Yeah, you're like,
And
damage it enough. Do a thing that does damage.
yeah, yeah. So for me, it felt new because I don't know that I've really experienced this too much outside of like Minecraft. But I had like the Minecraft moment where I'm like, oh, it's a tree, use an axe. Um, and and yeah, like for somebody who doesn't play video games, that probably seems like obvious. But for someone who like me who's played just like this weird subset of video games that doesn't really have that mechanic outside of Minecraft, I was like, wow, that's a really cool attention to detail and really thoughtful and really rewarding without it being like without it being like too hidden or too obvious to be like well yeah, you just told me this thing and I didn't figure it, like it was cool to figure it out on your own.
Yeah. I think they did a really good job of introducing that too at the very start of the game, because you get like sticks and you're like, man, I can't do anything I can't cut down trees with a stick. But then you make a little stone axe, and then it's like, I'm a little wood chopman now.
That's how they incepted me with it.
Yep, they incepted it into your into your noggin.
I was dreaming and they came in and they just yoink, put it in. So to get the wingsuit, you know how you have to get to like the top of all those islands and do like the dives of valor or whatever?
Yeah, the very first time I did one, I thought it was really fun.
So did you get to the I think I found this out after the fact. You don't need to climb to the starting point to do it. You can find the construct at the bottom and he'll be like, oh, this is where we do our ceremonial dive. Do you want to do the dive?
Oh, you can?
Apparently.
Oh, man.
I didn't.
Me either.
The one in the north, like I can't tell you how many bonfires I made and how many pine cones I threw on there to do my poor man's Rivali's Gale to then like make it all the way to the top. And I was like sweating. It was like a 20-minute endeavor.
Oh gosh.
Or whatever, however long it took.
Yeah, there was one of those.
It was so rewarding.
Yeah, once you get up there, you're like, let's go. I think it was fun, like trying to find all the armor sets too, because you're like, what's the set bonus gonna be? Ooh, and there was like some like mystery to it. I like that. More often than not, I was let down, but my imagination was running wild at least, and that's good.
I would have liked for there to be a way to like equip a secondary set bonus once you've unlocked it.
Yeah, or like see what they are before you invest all the time into unlocking it. That'd be kind of cool too. But then again, you kind of get rid of the imagination thing there, but you kind of you reduce frustration by doing it.
Like if I really cared, I'd just Google it.
Yeah.
So I think there's a little bit of like magic to not knowing what you're working towards, but then it also leads to a lot more disappointment.
Yeah, I did my best to avoid Googling stuff, but I will say I definitely did Google where some of the armor sets were in the underground because I wanted to get the Ocarina of Time set.
I still haven't finished that set, but I do have like a bunch of map X's that I need to finish out still.
Yeah, it requires a lot of star fragments to upgrade, so those are not fun tracking down either. But I mean, I guess if you just wait for it to be nighttime and then just like launch yourself out of a tower, odds are you'll find a star fragment.
I had a couple of occasions where I caught 2 star fragments in one skydive, and coincidentally was on my way to a dragon. Yeah.
Holy shit. That's so big money right there. God damn.
I got 2 star fragments, and then I got to ride a dragon, and it was like,
God,
that was pretty sick.
Yeah, that's a pretty top tier 30 seconds right there. Just
yeah.
Hot diggity damn, that's amazing.
Oh, kind of back to the temples topic.
Yeah.
What I feel like Breath of the Wild lacked in temples was like, I feel like what you learned in the temples was how to control the beast and like leverage that for a puzzle, right? But then that was it, and that was kind of like lost knowledge. Whereas in this game, you learn how to use your companion, and then you get to carry that knowledge and that skill set throughout the rest of the game. I thought that was a much better replacement to what you got from Breath of the Wild, and also kind of referenced back to the format of halfway through a dungeon, you get a weapon, and then you learn how to use that weapon for the rest of the dungeon to then use it in the rest of the Zelda, like your campaign or your playthrough.
Yeah, I think it's another example of them being really smart with like the story and narrative overlapping with gameplay. So you're like amassing this team again, and you're kind of like learning the special skills of each of your team member. And I think it makes you appreciate them more, honestly, when you think about like how much they impact your gameplay. And it was very well done in that you also kind of like get to use the ability before the dungeon and then kind of get more familiar with it and then really test it in the dungeon and then unlock it for the rest of time. I was sometimes a little bit annoyed though when my like spirits would overlap and I'm like, "No, I'm not trying to interact with you right now. I'm trying to talk to you. I want to use the Goron right now."
Like, I saw so many videos of people being like, a star fragment, I'm gonna go pick it up, and then Tulin blows it off.
Oh my god, that happened to me. Not the star fragment, but like, yeah, he was just right on my butt the whole time. So if I pressed A at just the wrong time, he would just shoot wind. Ugh.
Yeah, I was sitting there, like, I was watching Ashlyn play it, and I was sitting there thinking, like, what could have been a better button config? But the button, like, that controller mapping is so overloaded in a way that's not overwhelming. Like in the best way, right? Like,
Yeah.
every button, every combination does something just about. That I was like, I don't know where I would fit this, and I feel like they really tried to find a way to fit this into a button that wasn't just run up to them, and it just didn't work out. Because, like, there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to be like, Sidon, put a shield on me, or not Sidon. Is it? Oh yeah, it is Sidon.
Yeah.
And then, or what's her name?
Oh, Riju?
To start the Riju to do the electric field or whatever, right?
Yeah, I'm
There was
wondering.
just so much.
Yeah. Just looking at the controller, it's like, dang, everything's taken. And there's a lot of like modifiers too, where it's like you hold one and then like do something to do another thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that.
Yeah, so it's like it was really cool how densely they packed the controls without it being overwhelming, but it sucks that they couldn't find a place for that
Yeah.
because
Without
I
doing
feel
something
they
like
were better
weird.
yeah, because they're better integrated into Breath of the Wild. It's like, oh, charge up your weapon to charge up the lightning,
Yeah.
and Rivali's Gale was hold your jump. Like,
That
a
makes
lot of
sense.
or Mipha's was a passive, and Daruk's protection was a shield. Was when you shield, so it like those all like really made sense, and this one was a little more challenging, but it was really fun to have companions with you and to truly not be alone.
Yeah, like there were so many times where I would be fighting something, but then like Tulin would headshot somebody in the background or headshot the person I'm currently fighting, and I'm like, "Let's go, thank you."
Yeah, right.
That was really
And
helpful.
because there's no concept of like experience, there's no like lost experience, because I know other games do have that concept, and it feels terrible when your ally helps you.
Oh gosh, yeah, you're like, "Don't kill, steal me, bro."
Yeah. I also liked how, like, the game really from the get-go is like, it's an open world game, but this isn't gonna be the same open world as Breath of the Wild. Like, Breath of the Wild, you get off the plateau, you go fight Ganon. You're welcome to.
Yeah.
In this game, it's like, oh, you have to go do the check out the four phenomenal or like regional phenomena or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really cool.
Yeah, I think it was a structure that kind of lent itself more to like guided exploration. So, I mean, that kind of like ties back to the thing we talked about at the start, where people talk about getting lost. It's like, dude, there's a quest log and a map with like pings and like markers. It's like, just go do the thing that they said. As long as you talk to
Yeah.
people, then you'll never run out of things to do. Almost, it felt like there was just so much to do, too much to do.
Yeah, this isn't Outer Wilds or Subnautica where it's like very minimal guidance. Like, those games are, you just go figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll give you a couple hints, but go figure it
I
out.
still need to beat Outer Wilds. That game scares me, man. I'm still like scared of that planet with like the water shooting me up. I did play a little bit more a while back though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't progress
Yeah.
much though.
Yeah, but see, like, I think that I don't want to get too into that one, but that's a game that really opens the world up for you to be like, just go wherever, you know, like, you can't, there's nothing wrong. And Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom both have that philosophy, but Breath of the Wild is still like, but if you just want to go beat the game, like, here's how you roll credits.
Yeah.
And then Tears of the Kingdom even took it a step further and said, we're not going to let you do that because we do want you to get the whole narrative experience. So you need to do the 4 temples. You need to do the Master Sword. Oh, it turns out there's actually a 5th temple. And then now you can go fight Ganon, right? And so that was like a cool mix because then you could really take it at your own pace. So like for us, actually, how so when I want to go back to when you were doing the underground and
Yeah.
you made it to the fifth sage temple, you obviously couldn't do it, right? Because you needed the mask.
Yeah, I couldn't do it, but I didn't know that, so I tried doing it, and I think the first place that I went to was whatever the closest factory was. It might have been like Left Leg or whatever, and I was like
Yeah.
trying to figure out what I needed to do, and I interacted with the thing, and it had like the little like X. It was like, and I'm like, oh, I guess I can't do that, but I still was like playing around in that room, and then I think I
Yeah.
went to another one also that had like a lava pool and a bridge and like some fountains and stuff, and I tried solving
Hmm.
that as well. And I think I got stuck in the final room of that because it opens up a gate for you to actually get out once you
Mm.
complete that. But I never was able to even start it, so I was like stuck in there. So I was like, oh, this sucks. So I just like fast traveled away. But I found that area to be kind of neat, and I was like, ooh, it's called like Construct Factory. I want to make a construct. So
Oh,
yeah, that was actually
yeah.
my exact line of thought. I stumbled across it, saw it was called Construct Factory, and I was like, "Ooh, this is kind of neat." Then explored around a little bit more, and then I saw Left Leg Factory or whatever, and I was like, "Oh, interesting. I must need to do this to complete the construct." But it was uncompletable, so that my thought going there was like, "Oh, this place kind of sucks."
So when did you end up doing that? Did you like do the four temples, go find Zelda at the castle, and then it guided you to the like river or whatever?
Yeah, I
Clear the
discovered.
storm.
Yeah, so I ended up doing that after doing all the temples, but I discovered the construct place like I think after the wind temple but before the fire temple, so like kind of early
Yeah.
relatively. But yeah, then eventually I went and did all that stuff. And then when I went back to the construct temple, I was like, "Oh, okay. Ah, there we go."
So I have a different experience where I
Mhm.
was talking to some friends about it, and one looked at me like, "Wait, you can do that?"
Yeah.
So I got I found that temple and beat that temple before I went to find Zelda at the castle. There was a small part of me that was worried that that was going to be the end of the game.
Mhm.
Luckily, it wasn't. And we had also already done the Master Sword before we went to do that part. So we just went in stacked, five
Mhm.
allies, Master Sword, like ready to roll.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I was so obsessed with that storm that was going on that Ash and I flew up into that storm, and then we just like bumbled around, and then we found the construct, then we found like the door that was sealed, and I was like, I'm gonna come back with enough health or enough stamina or whatever to open this door.
Mhm.
So I came back and I did, and it was still storming. So I didn't even clear the storm.
That's
I just
crazy.
straight up,
I didn't
yeah.
even know you could go up there. I never even tried actually.
Yeah. And then Nash
Huh.
and I afterwards were like, how do we clear the storm? And I'm like, I want to figure it out on our own. So we went and we flew around in the storm and climbed to the higher islands and tried our damnedest to find a way. And we found another shrine up there. And then we are like, oh, um, I'm not finding how to clear the storm. So then I had to Google it to find out that it was actually on land, and we didn't even get that quest that told us how to clear the storm
Yeah,
because we had found the temple but without clearing the storm ourselves.
that's crazy. Cause can
That
you only get that quest by like doing like stuff at Kakariko and like reading some of the signs and such?
I don't know. Like my friend told me that the way that you get the quest is they tell you that there's like a fifth temple, and someone off on the east has been looking at, or southeast has been seeing some whatever
Yeah,
that
that's
might be
exactly
related to go
it.
talk to him. Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
there's like
we didn't do that.
I forget his name, but there's a dude who's like is good at reading like ancient Helion, and there's like the Fallen Ring, like
Yes, that guy.
yeah, that's the guy that you need to talk to because then he'll then go and explore that area underneath the storm, and then he'll be like, "Oh, I was reading some things, and they were saying that you need to like wear these three pieces of armor and then drop a thing on the shrine, and then it'll like do the thing." Like it's like a weird ritual to clear the storm, but
Yeah.
that's crazy. I didn't know that you could. Okay,
Yeah. So somehow we did that,
hell yeah, that's
which was
impressive.
really, really funny. Um, And then we also, I think we found the Master Sword even before that.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah, getting the Master Sword was really nice. I think I found it relatively early also, because I think I got it before the Fire Temple, like post Wind Temple, but pre Fire Temple,
okay.
because I wanted to find all those tiers. Like I actually I found a lot of like the murals and stuff because I was just like filling out my world map, but I didn't understand like where to find the tiers on them. But then eventually, as I was like parasailing above one and looked down, I saw one of those dots filled in, and then it like clicked. I was like, aha!
Mm. I think there's something in the Gerudo Desert that guides you to it, or no, it's in the Fallen Temple that's in the chasm that's in like the kind of midwestern portion of the map.
Uh huh.
Where if you go in there, there's like a model,
Oh
and so we
yeah,
took a couple
yeah.
pictures of it, and that's how we found the tiers. And so we just did it because I was like, I don't know, like, so the thing is, we first went to the Deku Forest because I was like, I want to get the Master Sword. It's probably back in the Grove.
Mm-hmm.
Why would they do the same thing twice, Robert? Like, come
It's a
on,
good point. Good point.
right? But that's what I thought. And Ashlyn's just like, yeah, let's do it. So she clutched her way through the underground to make it into the Deku Forest, terrified for our lives. We
Yeah.
get there and it's not there, and then it's like, oh, Papa Deku, I don't know what his real name is. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
um, his tummy's sad, so we go down, and then
Oh
the
yeah. There's
hands are
the
just kicking our
those hands
ass,
were so scary. Oh.
dude, terrifying. And so then I was like, all right, we gotta do it, and maybe this will get us to the Master Sword. And I guess in a way it kind of does point you in another direction to the Master Sword,
Mm-hmm.
once he feels better. But so we like kill the hands, and we're like, again, we have wingsuit armor at level 3 maybe. We're not equipped for real combat.
Yeah.
So I kill the hands, and it's like Shadow Ganon, like fuck, 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 fuck,
Oh,
fuck. I'm
that's
out.
yeah.
So then I was like, whatever, like let's just finish up like one of the main quests, not really thinking what it was. And then of course that's how we get the Master Sword, which that was also just such a fantastic quest. Like
That was good. Oh my gosh. That
explore the whole map. Oh,
yeah, I my mind was blown when I got it and I was sad when I got it too. I'm like, "No, this was the cost of the sword."
yeah. And then of course you're like, oh, like she's gonna
Yeah, I'm going
sleep
to
with us
undo it.
now.
There's going to be no consequences.
Yeah, but it really gave a lot of
Like weight to
weight
it.
to, yeah, exactly, to the whole storyline to it. It was really
Yeah,
cool.
like I had the sword and then like in the flashbacks they kept talking about like Link the swordsman and I was like, "That's me. I'm going to make Zelda proud. I'm going to use this
Yeah.
sword to its fullest. I'm not going to let her down."
Yeah. So that was really cool. And then also that got me to do all of the sky exploration and then hunting down those Hylian text tablets that were in the Flower Islands in the sky was super fun
Yeah,
as a result.
I never completed that. I found a couple of those like flower islands, but I couldn't read them and I didn't know what to do with them, so I actually never advanced that.
Um
Like the flower
I
islands.
Yeah, I don't remember what the result is for doing them, but I wonder what I'm trying to look up what he gives you. But he gives you money every time you do them. But this guy's like, oh, I've seen these. There are these ancient Hylian texts that detail like the history of the royal family. And if you give me pictures of them, I'll tell you like what they say, and I'll give you money.
Oh,
So
interesting.
that was how we made money. And then at the end of it, I was like, we were missing one, and there was the one that's like right over like the very tippy top center of like Hyrule,
Mhm.
and we're like struggled so hard to get to it, and finally I did, and the tablet wasn't there. The tablet had fallen from that, and
Yep.
it was
Into
just
the center of
sitting
the
in the,
town.
yeah. And I can't tell you how many like Zonai charges that we spent on like powering our battery or getting a plane that had like 10 rockets on it and like 5 fans on it so that it wouldn't run out.
That's
And we
amazing.
got there, and I was like, fuck it, put a travel medallion, jumped down, and then I was like, this isn't the last one. And then we ended up finding the last one, and I don't remember what the result was, if it was just like more money or what, but
That's cool.
that
Yeah,
was a
I never knew about
really fun
that.
experience.
That's
Yeah.
fun. Did you do the like the sky labyrinths, those like big squares, the cubes?
Yes. Super fun. Also, I think I've done all the sky shrines, and now I'm just missing a couple, or probably like 20 or 30 surface shrines, and then I'll be 100%ed on it.
Let's go. Okay. Yeah, you're doing good.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how many shrines are in Tears of the Kingdom.
I did as many as I could find, but I know I'm missing some. I definitely maxed out my stamina, and then I had like one full row of hearts, and then like 5 or 6 in the second row. I think. I think.
Wait, say that again?
So I maxed out my stamina, and then I had one
Oh,
full
okay.
row of hearts at the top, and then another row of hearts underneath it. But that was like only like 6 or 7, maybe 5 or 6 on the second row.
Mm, okay, I think we're at 125 shrines and there's 152.
Wow. Okay.
So we're
God
making our
dang.
way. Yeah. Um,
That's a lot. I did like how each of those shrines was almost like a little tutorial, though, for each of like thinking about things in a new way. There were times where I'd learn something in a shrine and then try doing it like out of the shrine.
yeah, I mean the shrines are the reason that I like started to understand the Zonai stuff because I was not a Zonai builder at all. I didn't have the I was so excited to like explore the map. I didn't have the attention span to try to like build something.
Yeah, I was the
So
same. I
like,
tried building a cart at the very start, but like by using ingredients just from like one of those like stands that's around the world, and it kind of
mhm.
sucked. And I was like, I'm not building stuff anymore. But then eventually, I did get like a couple go-to contraptions, like my plane, and then like like a hot air balloon or something. But that was like for the most part it.
Yeah.
But it was cool that
Yeah,
you could make all that stuff.
I loved that for the people that wanted to do that, but like when you have a child and the only time you get to yourself is basically just nap time, like I don't have the time to mess around with something that I don't feel is like as
Well,
like it
that
doesn't scratch my brain the right way.
that's what the Yiga clan can do for you, though. They can give you some blueprints, and you can just copy their shit.
Yeah, and that's true too. But by the time that we like ran into a bunch of Yiga and started getting their stuff, um, I'd already like figured out how to just work without a lot of the Zonai equipment.
There were definitely some
Some
fights that you could cheese with them, though. Like, I had a lot of fun doing those shrines where they just kind of like take all your stuff and they're like, "Go solve it now."
Oh yeah.
And there was some where it was just like, put a flamethrower on top of this like Roomba, essentially. I'm like, okay.
Yes. The Roomba, and that was a really good example of like where do I even find this stuff, and then having to figure out what to sacrifice to like the sky shrines or the sky vending machines for Zonai equipment was super
Yeah.
dope.
I think I actually ended up like not using Zonai charges ever for that reason. I kind of would just hold on to those in my inventory and throw those into the vending machine.
So I didn't realize that Zonai charges were so abundant and so critical for that. And then I put 5 large Zonai charges in there, and then it was just like
Just
I don't know
raining.
how many balls came out, but it was like the machine got stuck.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Another thing that I thought was really cool, in the cave specifically, was they did a good job of using light from the bright shrooms to guide you to like a secret area where there's like a bubble frog or something. So that was
Yeah.
also really cool.
Yeah, I love that the whole light to guide the player classic,
Exactly.
but they did it in such a way where it's like it makes you feel smart. You're like, "Ooh, I found it! I found the secret."
Well, it's because like they put enough like bright shrooms around that it's like it's not a wall that's a different color, right? Because like that was like the old telltale, like, oh, this wall texture's a little different, it's a different color, this must be a wall I can explode.
Yeah,
So
I would just
so
go and grab all of
yeah.
them. I would grab all those bright shrooms. If I ever hit
Yeah.
one and like lit it up, I'd be like, "Shit," because I needed those for my underground dungeon diving.
Yes. um what other things do I have in my notes before I get to the end here? Quality of life was nice in terms of like, oh, you're at a chest and your inventory is full, do you want to drop something?
Yeah, that was good. I was always
The
stressed
ability,
out by that.
yeah.
In my mind, I thought like, oh, this for whatever reason, like there were some shrines that had like a chest icon, and I was like, oh, this shrine won't be treated as 100% correct or complete if I don't open the chest. So what I would do is if I open up a thing and it had like a shield, I would just like drop one of my shields and take it to make sure that the chest was considered opened, and then I would just like throw it back on the ground and then like pick my stuff up again.
Oh, interesting.
It's like weirdly OCD.
I just left it because I figured now if I ever need a shield, which at this point in the game I sure don't, but I know where to go, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I did feel that this game didn't perform as well as Breath of the Wild,
In terms of like
technically,
oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
performance wise. So like in Breath of the Wild, I remember there being a little bit of stutter in like, or a lot of stutter in like the Great Deku Forest, and that's it in like the Lost Woods. But then in this one, I felt so many times that, like, oh, too many keys came out. Which, by the way, the enemy variety was fantastic in this game.
Oh,
Way better than
absolutely.
the last one.
There was so many different types of things, and it never felt stale, except for like the only thing that I could think of would be like if an enemy used to be like red or blue and then they're like a silver one now. It's like, okay, that's a recolor for sure. But there was also so many different like new types of enemies that kept it fresh. I always would try to like bomb those like Keese hordes, by the way, to like kill a ton at once.
Yeah, but I think the recolor was a good way to communicate to the player. The world is leveling up, you're leveling up. It's a little scary, but you're also more capable.
Yeah.
And also think about how much more powerful a silver bokoblin horn is than like a black bokoblin horn.
Oh yeah,
Right?
I would try to farm those silvers.
I'd stick everything went onto my master sword because I'm like, oh, if my master sword runs out of power, like whatever, comes right back. And then I stuck a gloom sword at the end of my master sword at one point. So then I got the gloom sword damage and I got the range, but I get the gloom.
Oh,
like,
that's
health
genius. What I did was I made a gloom sword where I put two gloom swords together, but then I was scared to use it and then never used it. But it did like 80 damage, but I just never used it.
I took Ash and I made a couple gloom swords, and then we bought a house and we put a weapon stand in it. And we put them on there, and whenever we wanted a gloom sword, we would take it to the guy that for like 20 rupees splits your fused weapon into two weapons into like two things. So then I would fuse one of those onto my sword and then take the other one back home and put it on my stand.
So you're blowing my mind twofold. I didn't know you could buy a house, and I didn't know you could talk to a guy to like decouple weapons like that.
That's the whole thing with like Bolson or whatever, like the island.
Oh, I never did that quest line. I found that town, but I didn't. Oh,
Yeah. In that town, you can So
you get a house.
yeah,
What?
you get to do this like mini Sims type thing where you can build a house and like do like Ashlyn made our house so dumb because it was just like two partitions in an L that had a bunch of open air, so it like wasn't an enclosure.
Oh, so
But
when
it was
building your
exactly
house,
what we wanted it to
did
be.
you use like Ultra Hand to build it and like
I
move
think so,
pieces
yeah.
around? That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Dang, they should make
Yeah, dude.
Zelda Sims.
So
That's
that was
amazing.
really cool. Yeah. That was a really cool aspect. There's a lot of creativity that like comes out of that game. Like I feel like I could continue talking about this forever.
Mm-hmm.
There's
There's just so much stuff in
happens
it. There's so many quests that like I didn't finish, but now I wish I did. Like I
still
could have
can.
unlocked a cool. It's true. I still can. I probably should go back and replay
What's
it.
stopping you? Yeah.
Yeah, honestly. Huh. I'll go do that. I'm gonna talk to a Bolson.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was dope. Would you think I think story-wise this was pretty serviceable. It wasn't
Yeah.
like blew my mind, but I was invested.
Yeah, there were some characters that I cared about more than others, and I think there were certain things that worked more for me than others as well. In general, I was like, I was pretty invested, but it did start to lose me a little when stuff started feeling repetitive, where it was like, I'm going to this temple, that temple. It's like, oh, and then this person's going to talk to their ancestor, or this person's going to talk to them, and it felt like I had the same conversation 4 times. But
Yeah, because they try to make it like out of work in any order.
exactly. Like you talk to somebody and they'd be like like many years ago, like we stood with the and I'm like, yeah, I know.
It would have been cooler if the slightly different perspective gave you a different slice of the story.
Yeah, instead of like
Where,
the same
yeah,
slice from a different perspective. But
it's just somebody else telling you the same thing as opposed to like somebody else telling you their perspective, and their perspective adds a little bit more. Like you know the big picture, but it adds a little bit more or something.
yeah, um, I did find it really fun tracking down the tiers, and then yeah, the
Hmm.
whole everything with Zelda was really cool. I think anything that involved like Zelda, I was more interested in for the story stuff, just because it's like, oh, she's in a different time. What's going on there? But yeah, I mean, I think it was pretty good. Fighting Ganon at the end was pretty intense too, because they already set up the thing about like turning into dragons, and I was like, don't do it, Ganon, don't do it. Then he did it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we can get into the final Ganon encounter. Getting to him was fun. It felt very tense, even
Yeah,
just getting down there.
going deeper and deeper, like
Hmm.
it felt thematically correct, like you went from the highest highs with like the brightest light into the darkest depths with like the most evil darkness.
Yeah, and I felt a little uh unsure about it at times. Not like I'm not prepared, but like,
Yeah, you're like, is this
damn,
okay?
we're
Is
like,
this right? Is this okay? Should I be here?
yeah, like we're going deep,
Yeah,
you
like
know?
when does this end? Fuck.
And then my favorite part of that whole thing was honestly the part where like you beat him in his first stage and it goes basically like haha, I was warming up, and then his health bar like replenishes and it just goes completely
Oh
off
my
the
god, I
screen.
love that. That was definitely my favorite part too, because you see his health bar refill, and you're like, stop, no, what?
It's that's enough
Yeah,
slices.
that's enough. That's enough health bar. Stop it.
Yeah. Unfortunately or fortunately for us, we backed him into a corner, so we just absolutely cheesed him. Because you know how you would attack, and then he would like flurry rush you back, and you had to
Yeah,
like parry him on it. We did something where he got backed into a corner, so we couldn't flurry rush us anymore. So we just like beat the shit out of him into a wall.
I kind of had a similar experience actually, because he would always dodge back, and then there was like that entrance hallway that had like the semicircle arch or whatever, and he was kind of just like backed into like the entrance kind of, and I was like just he was up against the wall, and I was like dunk dunk dunk.
Yeah, I think we did basically the same spot.
Yeah, I wonder how
Um,
common of an experience that is then, because it seems like
uh,
he's just naturally destined to go back into that friggin' hallway.
yeah, that or we're just gamers.
We were gaming, I think, and extra gamer mode.
Yeah. And then yeah, finally he does eat the stone, becomes a dragon. And that was one where I was like, this should have just been a rule of three. I didn't need five or six
Yeah,
like
popping the
things of
boils
it.
on Ganon Dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't remember how many it
it
was.
was kind of repetitive in that point too, where you're like, okay, I get it, I got it,
Yeah.
I landed on
It,
him and I hit the thing, I got it.
oh, he does have three glowing spots. I thought he had more. Whatever he had felt like too much.
It felt like more. I could have sworn it was like four, but if it is three, cool. It could have been one.
This yeah, it could have been like it should have been like I don't remember if it I think oh there's four. This is a game that's a rule of fours though.
Yeah,
Like
the
this is the
four
first Zelda game that
regions.
the four regions, the four sages minus
Well,
the
hey, you
fifth.
can't spell Triforce without four
That's true.
or try, but
Um, and then you also have like this is the first Zelda game I think, at least as far as I know, where you can where you have to have four hearts to start the game. Like any other Zelda game, you can beat with three hearts, but not this one.
yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, because you need to push the wall, but you need
Yeah,
to open the thing, huh? Yeah, they really want you to
yeah.
upgrade.
So I get that it was a rule of fours, but it just felt like it was a little too
Drawn out.
yeah, a little too drawn out where I lost the feeling of like it being epic, and it kind of became a chore. And it should have really been like hit the weak spot or hit two weak spots, and then the third weak spot is on his head. That's like revealed at the end or whatever. Because I think
Yeah,
that's where the fourth one is.
I've
But whatever it was just too much for me.
Yeah, I watched a video on something like that interesting recently. And the general like philosophy for a lot of stuff like that is like once you've like solved it in your mind, ideally the execution time from there is really short. Like in order to like maximize player satisfaction, like the worst thing you could do is like look at something and solve it, but then it takes a long time to solve. And I think that was one of the things that kind of led to like the dissatisfaction in that final fight, because it's like, you know what you need to do. You've already mentally kind of solved it, but then the actual act of like executing on that idea takes time. Like you're getting knocked around, you're having to parasail down to the dragon again, and you're like riding the Zelda. It's yeah.
Yeah, and especially because there isn't like it's supposed to be a gimme, right? It's not supposed to be a challenging boss fight.
It's my victory
much like
lap.
when Ganon is a boar in Breath of the Wild, and you're like, which was literally a victory lap, actually.
Yeah.
Like it there was something about it where it just like there needed to be a little bit more sauce between like Link and getting down and killing the boils, for it to not overstay its welcome. But
Yeah, let
it
me
was
shoot
much
like
cooler
yeah.
than Breath of the Wild's. Sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
that was cool. I do want to end on a high note, but I did have a question for you. What
Yeah.
was your like biggest gripe with the game?
You know, I didn't really. I think honestly, performance was my biggest gripe, because like everything, like this is still like a 10 out of 10 game for me. This is like, and I'm getting ahead of myself here, but this was still like an all time game for me. But you know the little things that we talk about, like I don't know, was Ganondorf particularly fun in any other Zelda game? Not really. Like in one, you play tennis or badminton with him.
Hey, tennis is so goddamn fun.
Yeah, but you have to let the ball bounce so you can. Whereas against Ganon, you know, you gotta just keep
Well,
volleying. Right?
Ganon cheats. He's playing volleyball. Bumps
Yeah.
that spike.
That's a brought back some memories. But so it's like it's not like Zelda's ever really, I feel, nailed the final boss fight to be like particularly.
It's such a hard
fantastic.
thing to nail too, especially in a game like this where like players could be coming in with any different possible loadout, you know? Like it's very
Yeah.
open-ended. You could either have a really hard time with Ganon or just like trounce on him because you set up. So that one's
Yeah.
tricky.
I think
Yeah.
my biggest like positive gripe would be I wish they had at least one more temple.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah, do a Temple of Time. Have Zelda has a temple. Do that.
yeah, I think something like I think that'd be really sick actually if they had like Zelda has to do a temple on her side and they make it something that's really fun and creative.
Yeah, a temple that plays with time or something where you're like going back and
Yeah.
forth. Yeah, they did
Yeah.
that in Ocarina of Time even, where you'd like in the past move a block and then that block's there in the future.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that shit's cool.
What about you? What was your biggest gripe?
Well, my biggest gripe, funnily enough, I was playing downstairs with Colton, and he actually kind of brought it to my attention, and he made me realize it. I was playing, and I think I was going through the water temple, and I was fighting and blah blah blah, and he was like, "You sure are pausing a lot. Like you're paused like almost more than you're playing." And I was like, "Oh shoot," because I found myself changing armors a lot based on where I was going. Like if I needed to switch into like hot or cold, or even like the burn flaming resistance for like the Goron Temple. And I think this is because of the fact that I had like a fully upgraded miner set. So like that was my best defense. So I'd try to be in that anytime I was in combat. But otherwise, I would want to be like, you know, hot or cold depending on where I'm at. And then like switching weapons a lot too. Like switching to this if it has improved Flurry Rush. What I would do is I would try to like backflip whenever an enemy attacked and like activate Flurry Rush and then switch to a sword or any sort of weapon that had improved Flurry Rush from there. So, and then like swing that a bunch and then like switch back. So I found myself pausing a lot. Like I think I was in menus a lot of the game. And I don't really know the best way to remedy this. I don't know if it's necessarily even a bad thing, but it's an interesting like observation almost. Just being like, are you like you're in menus so much?
Yeah, you know, actually on that topic, it didn't really bother me, especially like the weapon and shield and arrow stuff in combat, because I mean, we grew up playing Ratchet and Clank, and when you're picking your weapon between fights, when you're switching around, that all pauses time. So that's something that I'm not really foreign. That's not really foreign to me.
Yeah. But like I think a weapon wheel is like easier to navigate than like the weapon list. Like I found myself going like left and right a
Yeah.
lot. I don't know what the best way to remedy that is either, but yeah.
Yeah, I can agree with that. If they made it 3 rows, maybe that would have made more sense. That way you can go up, down, left, right. But it's it's not perfect. But I can see that. The point where I really completely agree with you is armor sets. Like the fact that there was no equip entire set option
That'd have been
was
amazing.
insane. And part of that is why I also think it'd be cool if you could have a secondary like armor set put on, and maybe it's like a cuff that you wear, and maybe if they really want to I don't know, limit you and how you can cheese Ganondorf or boss fights or something, it could be like, oh, the gloom is too powerful here, your cuff won't work, whatever stupid thing, so that they can have the boss fights be a little tighter in terms of um like limiting that for players, which might feel kind of bad. But like something like either one of those options or both of those options of this cuff that lets you equip an ability, an armor set ability, and a full armor equip set, or or if you like wanted to make your own set of armor that you could auto equip, like things like that would have probably improved it, because then I'm not going through trying to find every single piece of armor and then accidentally equipping the wrong thing and unpausing it and then repausing it or whatever.
Yeah, when I was playing, I found myself always equipping the same like 4 different armor sets depending on the region I was in. So I was like, this is my go-to armor set. Like my fully upgraded Fierce Deity set is the one that I would like to always be wearing. But if, I'm in this region or that region, then I would switch to this one or that one. I this might sound silly, but I'm wondering if like could it be such that like this is the armor set that auto equips if you're in cold. This is the armor set that auto equips if you're in hot, but then this is the one that auto equips if you're in neutral. Like I don't know what the best way to go about that is.
I mean, if it was like a prompt, it's like, do you want to auto equip this? Yes, no. Like, cool. Something like that. There's a lot of ways they could have done that, but I also understand that it's like,
Yeah, you could always drink like a potion or something too, I guess, but
yeah, like I know you can do that.
I was too attached to my consumables though. I'd rather save those and just
Yeah.
switch my armor, but then I complain about my armor. I'd rather just complain personally.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's validity to it though, for sure. But yeah, overall, like I said, this is an all-time game for me. Not just my game of the year, but like this sits up there with like Outer Wilds for me in terms of like wonder and exploration and just like satisfaction.
Hell yeah. So in that case, would you say it's like a 10 out of 10?
Yeah, totally. Like straight up. I know it's not perfect, but I don't know many games that are,
True.
if any. How about you?
Let's see. I definitely had a lot of fun with it. I'm floating at the minimum 9.
Yeah.
I'm floating around like 9 or 9.5-ish. They just do so many things right, and there's so many good ideas here, so inventive, so rewarding. And it was a game that like I couldn't put down for like a solid week or 2 weeks. So I'll say it's a tough 9.5, we'll say.
Yeah. Yeah, like that. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it deserves that level for just how much it did everything so well. You know.
Yeah, it was a game that like kept on rewarding you the more you explored and the more you played, so it felt like you just wanted to keep playing. You're like, I'm having so much fun just exploring. I want to keep playing.
It was a fantastic iteration. It's all I could think about whenever I wasn't playing it. Like, whenever Nora went to sleep, that was when we were like, all right, it's game time. So like my parents came over one time during nap time, and I was just sitting there like, I cannot wait for you guys to leave, because
Like,
we're
go.
trying to figure out how to get into the water temple right now when you're here.
You're sitting there and just like seeing like Zelda gameplay in the back of your mind.
Yeah, exactly. And we were trying to find out where like the tier was in the sky, so
Mm-hmm.
it was like there's a puzzle directly on my brain that I'm just like
You're like, well, if I
really
put that
trying to.
there, huh? And if I put
Yeah,
that there, but what if I made like a ultra hand? Okay.
yeah. Like I'm not sure if it's. Yeah, yeah. It's definitely like a. I feel like it obviously wasn't a perfect game, but I don't really know any game that is.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I feel fine giving it a 10 out of 10, knowing that it's not perfect because it's like, what's that reserved for then?
Yeah, honestly,
Tetris.
they're hey, that game's not perfect either.
Yeah,
This game's rigged.
but it's simple, right?
Yeah, I think yeah, there is no perfect game, but I think there are games that can like be such magical experiences, and this is like definitely one of the most magical experiences I've had in a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
Is
Like for me,
is good.
yeah, for me, it's like it's up there with like Left 4 Dead 2 and
Let's go.
like Outer Wilds. Like those are these, and they're all different games, obviously,
Hmm.
but they're all games that like scratch my brain in a different way, in a way that I'm just like, this is something that that's gonna stick with me forever.
Would you say that
Also,
this is your favorite Zelda then?
weirdly, no. I think I still like Twilight Princess better because I
Okay.
like that formula better.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I don't think it's a better game.
Yeah, that makes
As weird as
sense.
that is.
Yeah, that makes sense too. I think for me, nostalgia plays a large part in like what my favorite Zeldas are too. Like
Yeah.
looking back on it, it's like, oh, Majora's Mask, Link to the Past. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think this one is like Tears of the Kingdom at the very least is definitely like just mechanically and systematically and like scope wise like blows them out of the water. But still, like you remember how they made you feel. So the TLDR
Yeah.
is a good game.
It's a good game.
It's a
Might
pretty good
recommend.
game. Might recommend. I'll give it a thumbs up.
Yeah. Maybe two.
Ooh, shit. Maybe three.
Two thumbs up my ass.
No!
No, got him.
No!
Well, I think that does it for Zelda. Did we want to talk about what games we've been playing outside of that?
We could do that. I haven't been playing too many interesting games. I played God of War Valhalla, but I don't want to spoil it. I recently.
What's your spoiler free opinion? I know we talked about it a little bit already.
It's fun. It's surprisingly narratively rewarding.
Okay.
Because when you hear about it, you're like, oh, it's like a roguelike mode that they added to God of War, but they go harder than I expected on telling a story.
Okay.
And it's also I'm like dancing around my words to avoid spoilers. It's also very generous in terms of ensuring you progress, I guess we'll say. Like if you do have a really good run and you get upgrades and stuff, like the way that they dole out the upgrades, they power you up and you feel good.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna get around to that eventually. I'll get through my game log and backlog after you finish up yours.
Let's see, what else did I play? I recently played Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince. It's a game that's kind of like Pokemon, but it's Dragon Quest. I played the first one on the DS when I was younger, and I liked it a lot. I actually played it with Colton, funnily enough. Like, we each had our own copy, and you could trade monsters and stuff in that.
Nice.
And you could, like, fuse them, too, which was kind of cool. They have skill trees, and when you do a fuse, you can, like, pass those skill trees on, and you can, like, rank them up and stuff. But it was just an okay game, honestly. Like the story sucked ass, and it was. There were times I played it over Christmas break actually, and I was playing it like with Colton, and we would like be like, "What is happening right now? What the hell is going on?" Funnily enough, it you actually play as a younger version of the villain of Dragon Quest IV, but I never played it, so it didn't stick with me at all. But apparently it was like a cool callback for people who are like, oh my god, you're playing as the bad guy, but a younger version of them, and you're like a monster tamer. And I was like, oh, that's kind of neat, but I don't care.
This kind of feels like the equivalent to He told me if it's significant,
Yeah, it was
it will
significant.
be significant.
There were so many moments like that where they like characters would like do callbacks and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know you.
You're like, is this? You're like, why is it pausing for so long? Am I supposed to like scream and throw my DS or my Switch on the ground or
Yeah,
something?
honestly, yeah. So this one you played on the Switch, and the performance was kind of bad, and I actually crashed a lot too, but it was fun.
Oh, yeah.
And then the only other game I haven't been playing too many other games. I recently just started, like just the other night, playing a JRPG. Well, I guess you could just call it an RPG called Chained Echoes, and it's really good. You can tell it's made by people who played older Final Fantasies, but they like have some cool twists on it. They have this system where like you have to try to like stay in like the middle of a meter essentially, and every time you do attacks, that like meter goes up, and if it goes up too far, you'll enter like overheat mode. So you're like trying to do actions that like cool it down and then build it up. So you're like trying to stay in that sweet spot so that way you can like do the most damage. It's good. I like
That's
it.
pretty neat.
Yes. But that's basically all I've been playing. How about you?
Okay, so
Yeah, let me hear. What do we got?
I think last game that I beat when we last talked, I think was Guacamelee, probably.
Okay.
So Ash and I went through and we beat Tunic, and Tunic was pretty a much more challenging game than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like top-down Zelda games where you just gotta hit. But I saw somebody who's like, "Oh, it's like if you've only played a couple of hours, you're like, oh, it's old school Zelda. If you played several hours, it's Dark Souls. If you've played many hours, it's closer to Outer Wilds."
Interesting.
And and it's because it's this like so many things hidden in plain sight. There's so many puzzles in it. The boss fights are challenging. You need to be precise and deliberate. You can't just go hit, 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 hit. Oh, I got hit. Let me back up and do it again. You need to like be really careful. It has potions the way Dark Souls works.
Okay. Got that Estus flask.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but by the end, I literally had a notebook and a pen and paper to solve one of the puzzles.
Damn, that's intense.
Yeah. And it was so fun. Ashlyn's like, "Robert, you just do this. I don't care anymore." And she was like watching TV and I'm sitting there, I'm like got my notebook out. It was so cool, dude.
Let's go. I love when stuff does like things like that. That actually reminds me, one I still want to keep talking about Tunic because I do want to play that. That's definitely on my radar.
Yeah.
But there was one other game I played that I forgot, which was a Super Mario RPG, the new one.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's a puzzle in that where I had to write stuff down too, where like this guy's like talking about a song and it's like do re mi fa sol la ti do stuff, but his song is like do re mi, and I'm like, oh my gosh! So I actually like went into my phone notes app and like wrote stuff down. I can't think of like many other games where I've had to like write stuff down though. Like so, Tunic. I'm trying to. How many times did you only have to do that once in Tunic?
So far, because then I found out, oh, if someone's like, oh, if you want to go completely 100%, you got to go like full Charlie Kelly in the mailroom.
Oh gosh, what does it mean? Decipher everything. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm really liking that aspect of games. So that's kind of guided me to other games like Subnautica. Outer Wilds kind of is the primary driver for this genre, this subgenre, this aspect of games for me. I've got I haven't played yet, but I've got like Heaven's Vault and like Forgotten City or In Case of the Golden Idol, which are all like mystery games. They kind of also fall in line with like I played Return of the Obra Dinn because of Outer Wilds.
Interesting. Okay.
So I'm really loving that aspect of games. It's so much more engaging when you can like play a game and get stuck and put it down and still really ponder on it instead of just being like, oh, I just have to go to this place and do this now, which like unfortunately Subnautica doesn't quite scratch the itch the same way. It's a bit more exploration heavy than puzzle heavy, but it's not like it's a bad thing. It's just different.
Yeah, I think that's there's something to be said about that, like the staying power of the puzzle, and I think it's really powerful when a game like that kind of like exists in your mind and you're still thinking about it actively even when you're not playing it. So like you can kind of solve a puzzle in your mind or like think about a puzzle, but you can't necessarily like think as much about exploration, you know, like you can't be like, I'm going to go north, but you can be like, oh, I'm thinking about something that stumped me. I definitely felt that way about Inscription also. That's another,
Mm.
like, very much like you keep thinking about it even when you're not playing it, and like, oh, how do I get out of this cabin? And then like thinking about more of the mystery of it. Like that's really cool stuff.
Yeah. So Tunic is a super recommend, and if you don't play it before I get the chance to recommend it for you for the podcast sake,
Oh.
like I will. Don't worry if you don't get to it.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
but then I also played Stick of Truth, South Park.
Oh, yeah. How'd you like that?
I liked it, but I didn't love it.
Yeah, that's fair.
My gripes came from ultimately I'm just not a big South Park fan, so I got some of the references, not a ton.
Oh,
But
okay.
I loved being able to like explore the entire city. Um, it's actually I think probably the only South Park property besides probably Fractured But Whole,
Hmm.
where Tolkien's name isn't retconned.
Yeah.
So apparently they like went back into the captions and changed Token's name to Tolkien
What? They
for
did that
even
in
the
Stick
old
of Truth?
episodes.
Oh, in the
No,
old
no, they did it
episodes?
for
Oh,
everything
okay.
besides like Stick of Truth.
They
And
did that for the
probably
old episodes?
that's what I read. I mean, I haven't put on the things, but
That's
yeah, the whole
incredible.
point is what do you mean? You thought his name was Token?
Yeah, it's
So,
always been Tolkien, dude.
yeah.
That's so funny.
So funny. But like it definitely felt like an older game and like a smaller company still somehow because like the way the menus worked and stuff, but
Hmm.
really like it was a fun game. The fighting tactics was fun to try to figure out like what abilities do you want to use, what weapons do you want to use,
Yeah.
interacting with like trying to get the timing right on the hits or the blocks.
Yeah, I'm always such a
Um,
sucker for like turn-based RPGs where you have to like press buttons, like a Paper Mario type thing, and they did that in Super Mario RPG as well. I'm such a sucker for those. I don't know why. It's just
yeah.
like it's so like caveman brained, but like for me, I'm like I press A at the right time and I do extra damage. Me likey.
Yeah, and I also feel like they did a good job of not overdoing it on the fights.
Yeah,
Like they could have made it like, oh, you have to fight way too often, but it was balanced really well where I didn't feel like I was overwhelmed with like, oh, I have to do 10 more fights again or whatever. You could avoid them or engage with them however you wanted.
yeah. It ended up not being too grindy.
No, although I will say there was like a lot of fetch quests that I felt were kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
Um,
It is fun though
so
once you get like
that was
super
annoying.
busted though, like you get like an insane build and you like start like doing turbo combos, like lighting people on fire and stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like the game ended before I could really get to that level. Like I engaged with it on some degree, but it
Hmm.
didn't really level up to that high enough of a level where I'm like doing everything all at once because I can only fully level up like one or two abilities, I
Mm.
think. Um, but then there were also things like, oh, this weapon does extra damage to aliens or this weapon does extra damage to like whatever. But then like narratively speaking, and I know this is like kind of dumb to talk about like narrative for South Park, but like um the whole thing is that like you get abducted by an alien and then the ship crashes and then the government says it's a Taco Bell. But then like you need to defuse like the nuke that's gonna blow it up, but I feel like the aliens never came back and like there was no real resolution for like the city of South Park and the mega Taco Bell that's no longer opening.
Yeah, it was just kind of all
So
over the place. I actually don't really remember the story too much, but I do remember there being a lot of farts.
yes, the whole thing is about like like farts were your magic,
Yeah,
which I
that's
thought was
it.
really funny.
Oh yeah,
Um,
you'd have to like eat a burrito to like fill up your MP
yeah,
bar.
and then it was really clever how they you were able to use the farts outside of combat for like interacting with the world. I really did like that.
Hmm.
Um, it's just like it felt like it was 80% of the way there.
Yeah.
So
In that
that was
case,
fun.
it sounds like if you found that game to be decent, you might enjoy a Paper Mario game sometime, but like Thousand Year Door or something.
Yeah, like we played what's the was it Sticker Star? Is that the newest one? No, Origami King.
Oh yeah, that one was decent, but it doesn't hit the same as
Yeah.
like the first two Paper Mario's IMO.
it was super fun, I thought, but it was also pretty slow paced in terms of like the way the battles worked and stuff because you were figuring out the puzzle at the same time. So I
Yeah.
remember playing the OG Mario Paper Mario games. I think I actually borrowed the cartridge from you at one point, and
Hell
that
yeah.
was a really cool game. If not, I played at your house at a sleepover at some point.
Hmm.
Um, Keep moving
Yeah, what
on.
else
I
did you
played
play?
Inside,
Oh,
the
I
people that made Limbo.
yeah.
My first bullet point is just cool game. Like it only had a couple of like challenging puzzles. Most of them were pretty apparent. And it didn't over it wasn't where it's like, oh, I figured out the puzzle and now I have to like freaking deal with like the Zelda thing. It was like once you figured it out, it was pretty quick to solve.
Okay.
But then I was trying to find all the hidden collectibles and I had to cheat for one or two. Especially for the final one, because the final one I was like, oh, I think I know what it is, and then I was wrong, and then it's like, oh, if you go to this specific place, you hear music, and then the music is like the answer, and I'm like, okay, cool.
Hmm.
So then I did that, and then I got like the separate ending, and it just like the whole thing was like just too metaphorical for what I wanted out of it. So it was
Okay.
all right. It was cool. Good couple
Yeah.
hours.
I definitely want to check that one out. I've heard good things about that one, but I've also like seen some of the spoilers, you know. It's one of those things where people are like play it blind and
Eh,
I seen some of
I,
the
I I'd seen Donkey's video on it a while ago and remembered enough of it, and I didn't feel like it took away from the experience.
Okay.
I'd say if you've got an afternoon and you want to play it, like, yeah, it's a good
Yeah,
game.
that's good to hear. I like games like that.
Yeah. I also played Little Nightmares after that.
Ooh, that
Um,
definitely seems like a game I would anticipate that being something that's like kind of your speed, right? Like are you kind of into like the horror stuff?
yeah, it was a good mix of like horror, platform, but it wasn't super like scary.
Was it just kind of
Um,
like tense slash like stressful
yeah,
moments?
it
Like
was
run
like
away from a
tense.
thing?
Yeah, totally. And somebody's like going to this game blind. Like if you get spoiled, like if you haven't been spoiled on it, you have to play it. And then honestly, like I didn't see it. Like I think there's like something that's supposed to be the reveal, but like I kind of called it to be honest, and not like in a I'm a super sleuth kind of way, but I was just kind of like, oh, this kind of feels like I'm here, and then it's like you're here, and I'm like, oh,
You're like,
okay,
yeah, I felt that.
that's kind of what I felt.
Interesting. I've never played that,
Um,
but I've heard good things about that. And then the sequel supposedly is pretty good too.
Yeah, I'm interested. I think my biggest gripe with it is it tried to do the Mega Man thing where it's like you just have to hit the buttons to figure it out, and if you struggle enough times, it'll tell you. But like, I didn't realize that I had a lighter that I could light until I Googled it.
Oh,
I was like trying to go through the
interesting.
dark, and the perception was like really difficult because it's like side scrolly, but also isometric.
Yeah,
But
that's like 2.5D or something.
yeah,
Or,
yeah.
yeah,
So it's really easy to mess up like your jump perspective
I
until you
see. Yeah.
adjust. So that was a cool game. The last fight was fun.
Okay, okay.
Then we played Mario Wonder.
Yay, that's a good one.
Easily, like spent 100 lives on the last level,
Oh man, that final challenge was a pain in the ass.
and then I flubbed the flag twice. I just
Oh,
I just said I know that I could do it. I don't want to. I don't want to go through it again. You
not
know,
worth.
'cause the first time I thought I had a bad jump. Then the second time I jumped off of like the flat part of the triangle, and then that still wasn't enough air. And that's when I realized, oh, I didn't mess up the jump the first time. This just wasn't a good jump. So the next time I want to do it, I need to jump from the tip of the triangle to then get to the flag. But I don't want to get to it again. Like I spent hours.
Damn,
Maybe not hours, but I spent enough amount of time on it.
that was
I
a
will
good game.
say, yeah, super fun game. Um, really loved the emphasis on music. Like that was a really fun a piece of charm to the game that otherwise would have been like, oh yeah, it's just New Super Mario Bros. Again.
Yeah, I really
Uh,
thought it was cute when like the piranha plants come out singing and everything. That was
yeah,
fun. They definitely were like very inventive in every level with those wonder seeds. Every single level, I mean, there were some that had like were a little samey, but for the most part, everything was like kind of like mind-blowingly different. You're like, how many new ideas are they going to throw at me? Like, how many different ways could they remix this game? And then they did.
Yeah, and then there's also like the fact that you don't just get level after level after level. It's like I think we even talked about this a little bit when you came over. You get some levels, and then you get like a break where they even have like break time level, and it gives you a smaller bite size experience that's like really fun and a little bit more relaxing than what might have been a previously tense level. So then, yes, there's less platform levels, but I think that means that there's more high quality levels as opposed to a bunch of filler levels.
Yeah, and in a way, those almost act as like tutorials for things, so they're almost like Zelda shrines.
Yeah, yeah. To teach you how to use a new badge or how to like to test your use of a badge a bit more
Yeah,
effectively or
you
whatever.
get comfortable in this environment, so you're like, cool, maybe I'll bust that out in the real deal.
Yeah. So that was a fun one. Ash and I played that one together a lot and had a lot of fun.
Hell yeah.
The badges were fun. The multiplayer aspect of it was much better, though we still played it single player. But yeah.
Right on, right on.
Um,
What else did you play?
and then Doki Doki Literature Club.
Oh, I have not played that one. That's interesting that you played that one though. That one's like a virtual novel that like takes a hard left turn, doesn't it?
Yeah, and everybody hyped it up as like being like serious like psychological damage, but honestly, I think it was just novel for its time, and then like it does things that like I'm just gonna spoil it because honestly, I think you've had better experiences from other games.
Okay.
Um, unless you're big into dating sims and want to like I don't know.
Not really.
No, yeah, not like even if you were big into dating sims, it's not really satisfying. Like the writing is really good on it. Um, but like the twist that that was like I was expecting it. It was really slow to start where I was like, I feel like I'm investing a lot of time into like something that's like not scary. Um, and all the warnings and word of mouth on like, oh, this is not for like the faint of heart, like really overplayed it.
That's a bummer. I wonder if like
Yeah.
you would have enjoyed it more like not knowing that. Like if you went in thinking it was one thing instead of being like told that it's gonna be another thing. You know what I mean?
Like if somebody is like you just have to play it, trust me, like just trust me, I'll be like all right, and probably would have enjoyed it a bit more.
But if somebody's
I
like
also
this, yeah, like I think if anybody's like this is so fucked up, I'd like go and play it and be like, yeah, it's not that fucked up.
no, no. I've also never played a sim, so I never cared for like a perfect playthrough because it's like, ooh, can you get a perfect playthrough for each of the characters? And if you do a perfect playthrough for each of the characters, then you get like the true ending. But I was like, I'm not gonna spend my time on
Like
that.
I don't care about that.
I looked at the perfect ending, and I'm like, good for the people that wanted to do that.
Yeah, that's interesting that you played it though. That's kind of cool that you're like stepping out and like trying like other types of games. I still haven't played Doki Doki, but I wouldn't have expected that because that's such a like a weeby type game.
Yeah, well, that's why I was like, Ashton, look at what I'm playing, and she was like, why? And I'm like, because it's not what it looks like. I won't spoil it too much if it's like on your radar at all. But like, is it on your radar at all?
A little bit.
Yeah. Okay. I won't spoil it, but like, it does something that like other games that we've played recently have then improved on that mechanic. So like if you play it, we'll talk about it a little bit more. But it was cool. It walked so other games could run, basically.
Okay, that's really cool. I like that.
Yeah.
You know something funny? A fun
Respect
little,
for it.
a fun little fact about Doki Doki Literature Club, by the way.
Yeah, what's that?
The main person behind it used to be a Super Smash Bros. Modder.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, he did work on a Project M, which was like a brawl mod to make it play more like Melee, and he also like played competitive Melee and stuff.
That's awesome. I didn't realize that was the Project M guy.
Yeah, his name's Dan Salvato.
That's wild.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Then I got into Spider-Man 2,
Ooh.
which I haven't quite beaten, but I've gotten to a particular suit. I think I already told you. Trying to be spoiler free for this since it's not like
Yeah. Is
actual
it a
formal discussion
particular
for it.
suit that remedies annoyances?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Once you get
Yes.
that, it's like,
Huge powered
oh,
spike suit. Yes.
oh.
So
Because up until
like
that point, things were annoying.
yeah. So like city traversal's fun, side quests is cool. Combat feels more fluid since you're not pausing to pick gadgets the way you would in like a Ratchet and Clank game or Spider-Man 1, I think had that.
Yeah.
But the skill trees I don't really feel bought into.
I kind of
I don't
agree.
know.
They're kind of just like a lot of like minuscule updates and or like conditional upgrades that I don't think I would ever even use. It's like, oh, if you uppercut like 3 things at once, I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm not gonna do that. Like, I'm just buying this skill to get to the skill under it.
Yeah, exactly. Um I didn't care for the Craven storyline because I knew what was coming after it, which has been advertised, obviously, so to say Venom. I was just like, I don't care about Craven. I don't care about Craven. To give me Venom, give me Venom.
Dang. You know what's cool? I cared because I thought there would be some interesting overlap there. This is Spider-Man 2 spoilers, but I thought for whatever reason, I thought potentially Craven would be the one that becomes Venom.
I mean, well, so like in the opening cutscene, you see Norman transfer some black thing to Harry, and I was like, oh, that's Venom. And also I'd consider myself a bit more intimately aware of like the Spider-Man universe and stuff. Not to the point where I know like everything about like all of the little side villains like Tombstone and stuff, but enough where I like my note was like, how will Venom become standalone, or will he go to Harry? Does he go to Eddie Brock? All these things where I'm just kind of like, I'm already trying to figure out like how Venom plays into it because I know that he's
Yeah.
not going to go off of Craven. So it made me really not care for Craven, which kind of sucked, and it also kind of rushes Venom. But now with the leaks that we know, I understand why they just kind of rushed Venom forward to get his own game and then to have him be a facet of Spider-Man 3. It just kind of sucks because I feel like they could have done it better.
Yeah. Because I will say it was interesting, though, that they established that, like, the suit could move from person to person because, like, it moves to Peter. So I was like, oh, could it move to Craven? That'd be, like, off the fucking wall if they did that. That'd be absolutely insane because, like, oh, you expect it to be, like, this person or that person. The fact that it's Harry, I think, is something that they haven't done before. Maybe
Yeah, he's normally Hobgoblin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm going for
which I literally
Norman.
have a note.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I have a note that's like back to curious how Venom will become standalone. Back to Harry, but does that mean no Hobgoblin?
Yeah. What's interesting,
That's
too, is that,
literally
like,
my brain is.
he was, like, he got so friggin' buff. God dang, Harry.
Yeah,
It was cool, though, that there was, like, that one mission where he's, like, fighting alongside you, too.
yeah. I think it was cool to see a couple of missions where you're working together, and you see the suit mutating to kind of mimic Peter.
And then you see their relationship, like, kind of falling apart.
Yeah, I feel like they could have done a little bit more, like narratively wise, to kind of show why the symbiote chose Peter over Harry as well. Although they kind of hinted at it with the way it like mimics him. I guess we are kind of getting into spoilers here, but
Oh, yeah.
nothing too crazy. Like nothing that like if you've seen Spider-Man 3, you kind of know, right?
Yeah. Symbiote stuff.
Yeah. So the to kind of be a little vague here because I don't want to spoil too much, in case of anything at all. But like fighting Craven and like getting to actually finally defeat Craven really set the power level, like reset the for you as the player of like strength among different characters. And so then that's part of why this suit really kind of resets the power level one more time. The suit that I just got, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
So I really like how they found a way to really step up the game a little bit.
Yeah,
in that
definitely.
sense.
It was interesting for them because, like, even after finishing the first Spider-Man game, I was like, I feel so strong. How are they going to introduce anything that will challenge me? And then in the DLC for that, it's like, okay, this is pretty challenging. Like, there's like the hammerhead, like mechanical whatever stuff. And then the question then is like, well, how are they going to challenge me further? So then there's like the hunters in Spider-Man 2. And then you're like, okay, I've got them basically figured out. What else could they throw at me? And then they throw something else at you, and I'm like, oh god,
Yeah.
this is tough.
Yeah. What else? I looked at the is it Emily May Foundation?
Yeah.
Right? That's what it is. The side quests for that and the Mysterium were like the Mysterium quests were like all right, but the narrative behind it was so weak and so lame that I was like, I don't know why I spent my time doing this except for to get a dope ass suit.
Yeah. That was a pretty cool suit. I used the red version of it. But
Yeah, I liked
funnily
it.
enough, the very first time I started the Mysterium, I actually I like encountered a bug. It didn't like, you know how you like walk into that portal and then you're like walking forward a little bit and then you're like up
Yeah.
here. What happened to me is I wish I saved a video of it. Damn. I walked into it and then it like didn't trigger like the load to like load me into the new arena. So I was actually able to walk freely and I was in a long green tube. And then I just held forward and then I walked to like the end of this tube and then like fell down out through the world and then crashed. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
Oh, that's why I didn't save a video, because I crashed. Damn it.
Yeah, I liked the last thing on the Mysterium, the last little bit.
That was cool. That was like so high effort.
I actually figured it out, the like puzzle to it, but because I didn't change my perspective, the game like didn't honor it.
Oh, interesting.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, you were facing one
I'll
way.
I'll just say it because I started walking backwards for like 30 seconds and I was like, oh, I guess this isn't it. And then something happened where like I accidentally turned the camera and I'm like, wait, I tried going there though. So
That's funny.
That
That
was cool.
that fight though, when you're like in the little like snow globe, I was like, this is so cool.
that was dope.
I'm such a huge sucker also for moments where you're playing
Right.
a game and you're fighting in like a smaller version of something. Like if there's a game
Yeah.
where like I walked through like a little like model like city, I would love that. You know, anything like that.
Yeah. Kingdom Hearts 2 has that in
Yeah.
Timeless River.
I loved that. I loved
Yeah.
that. Yeah. They did that in one of the Toy Story games too. The Toy Story 2 one where you play as Buzz, you go to like you go to like Al's apartment, I think, and he's got like a little like cowboy playset diorama or whatever in his living room, and you just like walk in this like small little hallway that's like made to be like the Wild West, but it's just like a small area. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. I like this. It's fun.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for that shit.
Yeah. So the EMF quests are such a, like I don't know why they wasted their programmers' times doing that. Like
Yeah, some of them.
they're just to
Yeah.
kind of show off the world, I guess. But it's like, oh, I have to go ride a bike, and I'm like, this is dumb. Or I have to like pilot a drone around Central Park. This is
Well,
dumb.
actually, in the lore, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some of them, yeah, they're not as exciting. It's interesting how a lot of the Spider-Man games, I mean, it makes sense if they're like, he's also Peter Parker, you know, he's also a scientist and he's also like trying to like heal the world with his friend Harry. But
Yeah.
it's tricky just looking at it from like two competing like gameplay elements. Like Spider-Man is kind of more fun than Peter. So like a lot of the time, like even in the previous game, people were like, "Oh, moments where I'm not Spider-Man are boring. Like I don't like solving puzzles, like technology puzzles as Peter, or playing as like playing as why am I blanking on her friggin' name? Mary Jane. But
Mary Jane's parts were much better than the first one.
she was a lot of fun to play as that in Spider-Man 2
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. I enjoyed some stealthing around.
Hell yeah.
On the topic, into some spoilers here.
Ooh.
The Scream fight was fantastic, super fun. Mm-hmm. I loved. There's one part where like you throw her into a truck in a cutscene or something, I think, and then the truck is an ice cream truck that says "Ice cream, you scream."
Ha! I didn't realize that.
I thought that was
Oh my
amazing.
god. Somebody put that in and they felt so goddamn funny.
They were right for it. I also kicked her ass so hard that like I had her stun locked between like abilities and then like concussion grenades and stuff that I ended up like she ended up repeating the same line 3 times to me about like I like cut it off so then she'd restart the line and then I'd stun lock her again and then she'd repeat the line.
That's funny.
So that was pretty funny.
Hell yeah.
and then I think I actually ended up beating her before she even finished the line the third time. It just like
Damn.
straight up cut to cutscene, so I don't know what she was saying, but she was saying something about like um Peter like trying to like pretending to be noble or something. I don't remember, but he like cares for himself. And then like I said, I didn't really get to finish it. So yeah, I'm finishing that game up when I find the time.
Nice.
So what that leaves me with now is I've done a neutral playthrough of Undertale, but for the sake of our podcast episode on it, I'm actually doing a neutral run right now. And then if I feel like doing a genocide run, I will, but I'm probably not going to have the time to do that
Mm-hmm.
because I'm also pretty dang hooked on Subnautica, which
Hey.
I've put in 19 plus hours on it.
Hot dang, let's
And
go.
that game is super fun and dang does it kill my Steam Deck battery so fast though.
Okay, so
It's
you're enjoying the Steam Deck
yeah,
though with it?
yes, and it's a hard not recommend for you. Like
Okay.
hard not recommend for you.
Yeah, I
Like
want to get it.
like if well so okay, so I actually have a key for it because I got it on the Humble Bundle, I guess, but I never actually um used the key and didn't know that I had
Yeah.
it. So then I bought it.
Let me check, cause is that one of those ones that they gave out on like the Epic Store also?
Maybe,
Let me
but
check.
like
They gave out
like
Guardians of the
this.
Galaxy for free today, by the way. Sorry.
Oh, sick.
Yeah,
I already beat it, so.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, if you don't like Giants Deep on Outer Wilds, you're gonna hate this game.
Oh gosh.
That's why I'm like hard don't play.
For a brief moment, I thought you were saying it's hard to not recommend. I was like, oh, okay.
No, no,
Oh
no,
gosh. Okay.
no. I do not recommend this game for you based off of that. But if you're ever interested and you don't have a key, I will gladly give you my spare.
Maybe I'll pass, but who knows? Maybe it'll
Yeah.
be what helps me overcome my fear of the ocean.
Right. I mean, I got the feeling of fear in it, although it's more about like being exposed in the open water than anything else. But
Hmm.
it's a cool game. Maybe watch a playthrough of it if you want. Um,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
that's been sucking up my time. And then Ashlyn and I started, or actually we're almost done with Little Gator Game, which is cool, but not hitting the same as a short hike.
Yeah.
Um,
When I saw that, it looked like somebody trying to emulate a short hike.
and it is, and it works, but we were playing with such a low field of vision or field of view
Hmm.
that like it was a little nauseating and it was a little disorienting to figure out where you were going. And then I found out you can change the camera distance. So we're gonna get back into it and finish it from there.
Okay.
It's charming and it's fun, but the map it takes notes from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom also, in terms of like not giving you a map and telling you like you have to explore and you have to use these landmarks to figure out where you're going.
Hmm.
But it doesn't do as good of a job. But it's still a fun game. I would still recommend it. It's a
Okay.
nice
Yeah, it looked kind of
another one of
cutesy.
those. Yeah,
One of those
uh,
indies.
yeah, a good burn a few hours. You won't regret it, but it's not like it's not hitting the way a short hike did.
Okay. Dang.
I haven't beaten it yet, so for what it's worth, maybe a short hike definitely the charm kept you going, but then it really got you in the end with the climax of the game.
Yeah. I like that. I
Um,
played it again somewhat recently, actually.
oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice. That's a fun game. And then we also touched Dave the Diver, but didn't really get into it. But
Ooh,
that's gonna
okay,
be another
cool.
fun one. So I'm doing a lot of underwater work.
Hell yeah, you're getting aquatic with it. Yeah, Dave the Diver,
Yeah,
that's one that I haven't beat, but I started that one and I think I got somewhat far, but that's a good one.
yeah. Oh, I'm also playing Moonlighter, but I'm not really taking any notes on that one. I just play it on and off.
Okay.
Uh, it's a roguelite with a shop that you manage to help give yourself more equipment
Yeah, that one
to
was on
go
my
further.
radar. I'm kind of into stuff like that, like games where you like run a shop.
Yeah, it's cool. It's a lot of fun. It doesn't have the same draw for me as like Subnautica right now.
That makes
But I'm
sense.
also I'm also juggling too many games as it is. I think that's 4 games ongoing at the same time.
Yeah,
So
that's a lot. It'll be hard to like shuffle between all of them. Like you got to finish one of them.
yeah, so I'm gonna focus on my Undertale
The
clean
pacifist.
playthrough, my pacifist playthrough, and then I'm gonna try and finish up Spider-Man. Subnautica is probably gonna be an open quest for a while.
Yeah, that game seems
I'm
almost
ex-
like one of those ones that's like takes forever to beat because it's like
I think
survivally.
it's like a I think it's in like the 30-hour realm. So
Okay, that's doable.
yeah. Um, but actually I just Googled it, it says 30 hours. Um,
Perfect.
so, yeah. But yeah, that's where I'm at, in
Hell
my
yeah, you're
my,
going
my
full on
modest
gamer mode.
gaming adventure. Yeah, we got Guacamelee 2 to play together when we get onto that, and then hopefully I'll get a chance to play Alan Wake.
Yeah, Alan Wake 2 is one that I want to try.
I've heard it's fantastic.
Yeah. It's hard to like buy places though, right? Like don't you have to buy it on the Epic Game Store? Is it on
It's on Epic.
can you get it
Yeah.
on PlayStation 5?
Maybe, but my graphics card beats a PS5, so.
Dang, mine does not. So I
Oh, yeah.
I need to get a new graphics card.
Yeah, I mean it's not by much, but yeah,
Hmm.
that's my I mean I'll figure out when I'm ready to play Alan Wake 2, but this on this sale I just bought Elden Ring and Braid
Ooh.
and what else did I buy? I bought 2 other games or maybe one other game. I've already forgotten what else I bought. But Case of the Golden Idol and only those 3. So I just bought more games when I haven't even started half the game or most of the games that I bought on the fall sale.
It's
So
so fun to buy them though. Like, don't you enjoy
no,
like buying them and just imagining how much fun you're gonna have with them?
yeah, I'm saving so much money by buying these.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah. There's no shortage of good games out there. 2023 was a fantastic year for games, so
it was.
I think there's a lot of fun to be had still.
What was your goatee at the end of it all?
My goatee at the end of it all, probably still Zelda,
Yeah, yeah,
but
totally.
let's see what
What's your
other.
runner-up then? That's the more interesting question. I feel like
Yeah.
it's so basic to say, "Oh, I loved it. It's one of my favorite games," but like it
Oh,
deserves it.
Resident Evil 4 remake. That was really
Hmm.
good. I
Yeah.
played that somewhat recently. Also, I played on my PlayStation. I give that a big time recommend, especially if you never played the original Resident Evil. That one was really fucking good. Um, I also played
Okay.
Cocoon. That was a pretty fun like indie
Ooh,
puzzle game.
that's on my list.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
one was good. I'm just trying to see what else. I bought Baldur's Gate. I haven't played it yet, but we gotta play it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We're gonna start a campaign soon.
Let's freaking go.
Yeah, boy.
Then what else? Ooh, a pretty good puzzle game that I played was called Viewfinder. That one was fun. I recommend that.
Oh, I've heard that was great. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's good. That's basically it. What else did I
I
play?
think
Power Wash
I think
Simulator.
my runner-ups are these didn't come out this year, but that I played this year are Tunic and Unrailed.
Yeah, Unrailed.
Unrailed
That's a
is
fun
so
one, right?
fun.
That's the one where you have to like clear the way for a train as it's moving down the tracks.
Yeah. If you buy it and you ever want to play it, like Ash and I are down.
I'm down. That sounds fun.
It's so fun. We played it with Sean and Cynthia, and it was fantastic.
Huh. Yeah, I'm down to play some
So
Unrailed.
yeah,
Yeah. I like to clear the train tracks.
yeah. So I'm looking forward to Unreal 2 this year.
Hell yeah. Oh, there's another one coming out this year.
Yeesh.
2024.
Yep.
Let's freaking go, dude. I
Oh.
dig that.
So 2023 was a good year for games. Hopefully 2024 is half as good. But we'll just have
Hopefully.
to see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fingers crossed. We'll see. But there's plenty more games to be played.
Yeah. Well, I think that should probably do it for this episode before we just get into like inane ramblings.
Yeah, I
That
think so. I'm feeling
happens.
tired.
Well, I guess thanks for listening, and Cameron, thank you for committing to talking about games with me this way.
Oh, but of course, the pleasure is all mine.
Yeah, I know this is something that we love and that we do regularly, so it's like, why not make it a thing?
Yeah, exactly. I've been playing games. Might as well do something with it.
Yeah, do something.
Yeah.
Well, and I think next episode we should be talking about Undertale unless something goes incredibly wrong.
Yeah. And then after
And then
that,
will I have a review
what
and then will I have
I'm excited to see what you've got.
a
I'm
recommendation for
I
you?
really I gotta say I do honestly really look forward to getting your recommendations and trying those out. It's a lot of fun.
I have some throwback ideas.
Ooh. Okay.
Yes,
I'm into that.
yes. Yeah.
Well, I guess that
All
about
right.
does it for this episode. Yeah, thank you so much for listening, and thank you, Robert, for sharing all of your thoughts as well, talking about Zelda.
But of course,
Yes.
this is what we do
Yeah, sure.
at the Frame Rate Podcast.
Yeah, so that's going to do it for this one. Thank you for listening if you made it all the way to the end, and I hope that you have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.